Alrighty. Welcome back, everyone. Those of you that have been to the stream before, and welcome any of you that have not. Today I have a guest on here, Austen, and we're going to be doing some pairing, which is going to be pretty exciting. Obviously, I typically work on here alone, but I think this is going to introduce a pretty cool new dynamic. Austen and I have actually worked together in the past, and so we've done plenty of pairing in the past. And Austen is one of the people that I've showed that has actually already submitted some pull requests to Octo, so it's going to be pretty awesome. Say hi,
Thanks,
Austen.
David.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, Tiff. How's it going? Like I said, Austen, I mean, I'll just be randomly talking to people in chat, anyone who comments, and typically I try to say their name and also read what they said so that it doesn't sound like I'm talking to you or talking out of nowhere. But, you know, pretty freeform, pretty casual. Tiff says, hi, Austen. And so I think, well, we already know what we're doing today, and I already posted this earlier on Twitter, but we're going to be adding Vim Keybinding support to the Octo editor. This is something that CodeMirror has fairly native support for, and something that Austen has actually already done a lot of the work for. So this might actually not even be that difficult, although it might be difficult. I guess we'll find out. But I think the biggest thing that we had left, other than the base functionality, was making sure that the Vim module itself, which is a fairly large chunk of JavaScript, is auto-loaded rather than built into the bundle when someone actually has that enabled. Does that sound correct to you?
Yeah, I think the underlying, so Octo uses CodeMirror to back a lot of the editing behavior, kind of the interface that you get in terms of how you manipulate text. So
right.
It has a lot of functionality just built into it. Vim support is one of those. So it has built-in Vim emulation. So it's pretty straightforward to add support for that, but it does have to, you do have to bring in additional assets, essentially to have that Vim emulation. So that's kind of what we're talking about here.
Awesome. I think one thing that I need to do that I didn't do is I need to pull down your changes. So something I wasn't really thinking ahead on. So let me go ahead and pop over to that open pull request that we've got. So
Sounds
support
good.
of Vim editor mode we've got here. And I believe in order for me to check this out, I don't think opening a PR actually creates a branch in my repo. So I think I'm going to have to clone your fork, which I've actually already done, I believe. In which case, all I should need to do is just kill the server that I have running now, because that's running off of the main repo, and then just launch the dev server from your directory and check out the branch if I don't have it checked out already. So let's go ahead and take a look at that in my terminal here. Actually, I should probably be using my code terminal so that you can see it, right?
That would be helpful.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's go ahead and do that. Can you see my terminal now?
Yep.
Perfect. All right, so let's see. This is going to be Austen Madden Octo. Yep, see, I thought I already had it down. Let me switch over, though. I'm going to kill the dev server that I had running in my terminal. Cool. And I will make sure that I am actually git branch. I'm on master, so I'll just make sure I'm up to date here. Interesting. Oh, I actually had your repo pulled down from the scroll bar changes that you made. I actually did make some changes to the scroll bar, and funny enough, I thought that I just had lost the changes that I made. Turns out I was making the changes in your repo, so we're just going to drop those.
There's actually a fun fact about that. On my end, when I was making those two PRs at the same time, I forgot that I was just working off of master for one of them. So I had completely overwritten the changes
Oh
And
yeah.
I didn't realize that. Yeah, and the way GitHub works, like, it doesn't, if you change the underlying branch that has been, that you have based your PR on, it will reflect those changes. So I had force pushed over those changes, and so I had to go into GitRefs and like rescue like all my work.
Oh
and it
no.
was massive pain. And it had been like, I swear, like years since I had done anything like that. So I was like, oh my God.
Oh boy, yeah, that's never fun, and I've been there. I think we've all been there. Anyone who's used Git has been there. But glad you were able to restore them, though. That's the beautiful thing about Git, right? Nothing's ever actually lost if you know where to look. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the upstream Octo as a remote so that I can pull the changes that I've done recently, because I have made quite a few changes. Not on your fork, but on the actual Octo repo that your fork is probably behind, or at the very least it's behind on my side. So I'm going to git remote add upstream, I'm going to call it, and I just need to grab a copy of my clone URL. Okay. And then git fetch dash no tags upstream. Awesome. And then git rebase upstream master to pull those changes into your master. So now mine should be actually, it's ahead of your master, which I probably don't have access to, do I?
You can find out. I could probably give you access if you don't.
Yeah, I don't have access to your fork at the moment. So just heads up to everyone else that's watching. So because this is building on top of some work that Austen has already done, we actually have we have quite a bit of code written. Rather, Austen has quite a bit of code written, but it's on his fork of the repo rather than the actual upstream Octo repo, which is just because Austen doesn't have permission to write to the repo directly. And, maybe that's something I should give you access to now that you're writing some PRs.
That's all right. I enjoy being part of the masses.
Here we go. Oh, hey, gaming. Right. I don't know if you're still hanging out. Running to grab dinner for the fam. Be back shortly, Sensei. Oh, God. I definitely hope to see you soon.
All right. You should, David, you should have a pending invite.
Oh, yeah? Oh, nice. Awesome. Yeah, we'll do it this way for the stream, and then I will definitely give you access, at least to be able to create like your own branch and to do like PRs on the upstream repo. So let's
that would be nice.
See. Probably have a bunch of work notifications in here. Here we go. Awesome. Looks like I have access now. Let's find out.
Huh. Interesting.
Oh, denied to HallHub.js user. Well, that's something to do with my work. I don't know what the heck is going on. Oh, it's using your repo was cloned with a non-git URL. So that's interesting. Let's do this. Let's vim.git/config and let's fix that. I'm going to change it to I only use SSH on my end, and so I must have accidentally cloned the HTTP version, and so now it's like trying to use my my work user account. I honestly don't know what the heck HallHub.js user is or where that came from, but doesn't matter.
Does your work have like a I don't know, I guess you could call it like a local CLI tools that kind of set up a lot of like underlying dependencies like that?
Nothing. I can't. I got this as a fresh, clean MacBook with nothing pre-installed. It got shipped to me directly from Apple. So
that's really weird.
And we don't even use like much of a local dev environment. What we use is like a local Rails server, and I've got like a Heroku CLI tool installed, and then I also run npm locally. Like it's not even wrapped in Docker at the moment. So yeah, I don't know where that user could have come from. So I'm going to look into that later because that's really
Do
weird.
you have a hook somewhere defined? I don't know. Like I'm trying to think of like anything that like a get hook maybe.
Yeah, I know. I was wondering that too, but I don't know. It's odd. Looks like it's working now. Perfect.
Yeah.
So swapping to that seemed to do the trick anyway. Let's see. So I pushed the updates to yours. Now I just need to check out the correct branch. So if I go back to the main repo here, your branch was just, let's find it.
I believe it was
Vim. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So check out Vim. Perfect. We're going to rebase master changes in. Okay, so the only difference is here, let me just do a git fetch -a just to be sure. Whoops. The only differences here are the rebases from master. So I'm going to do a force push, assuming I have permission to do that. Perfect. So now your Vim branch should be identical. 5 files changed. The only difference is now it's up to date with the changes that I've made recently, which, yeah, there were no conflicts. I wouldn't have expected there to be any conflicts based on like what I have worked on in the last couple of weeks since this was opened. So awesome. We got everything up to date, and now I think we're ready to actually start working with this change set. So you've got one commit where this is the main piece we're going to be changing, where we actually pull the Vim bundle in. Actually, that's CodeMirror keymap Vim. Is that the only place yeah, it looks like that's the only place it's pulled in.
Yep, I just pulled up the PR on my end as well, and that looks correct.
Awesome. Good. Lots of white light on my monitor right now. GitHub is bright. Okay. So that looks good. I'm just reading through this again because it's been a minute since I looked at it. Just trying to make sure that I'm following along. Make sure that the only change that we need to make is that auto loading. There actually is one stylistic change that I would like to introduce, which I think I mentioned to you previously, which is the radio buttons. So in the screenshot, you know, we've got these little radio options, and what I'd like to change them to is, I haven't actually made the component yet, but if you go to the editor settings, you'll see that we have this little toggleable checkbox button. I just want to make a similar styled radio button, and then we would have multiple button options, but it would be radio elements rather than checkbox elements. So just to make it consistent, you know. So I feel like we can add that as well, but we can save that for the end in case we do run out of time or something. So
sounds good.
Worst case, that'll just be a separate change.
It might be a good idea for us to run through, just for everyone else's benefit, and also for my own, because it's been a little bit since I wrote this. Run through the changes that are here in this PR and kind of talk a little bit about what it's doing, essentially.
Yeah, sure. That sounds good. Let's pull up this diff here. Do you want to run through it, or do you want me to run through it?
You know, let me try.
Go for it. Yeah.
You can be my rubber duck in this this example, and we'll see how that goes. And then if I inevitably mess up describing what I was even doing at the time because I've forgotten, then we can go from there.
Yeah.
So essentially, what we're trying to do here, you'll see in and actually, let me flip over to the stream just so that I know we're looking at the right part of the code here. And
all right, just keep in mind, remember the stream is going to be a bit delayed, at least a few seconds. So oh, hey Squiddy, welcome in. We are reviewing a PR right now, some code that we're going to be working on and then hopefully merging in soon. All right, Austen, take it away. Sorry.
No, sounds good. It sounds like maybe we should bump up the screen size a little bit if we can.
Oh, yeah. Nice catch on that. Okay, bumped it up. Hopefully that's a bit better.
Cool. So essentially, the underlying library we're using to get a lot of our editing behavior, CodeMirror, has built-in support for Vim emulation. So just to back up even further, Vim is it's an editor as well as kind of, you could almost call it a set of I don't know, key bindings, and David, feel free to throw your own opinion about what is Vim, because I feel like it's a very broad topic. But essentially, a lot of developers, myself included, use Vim as their editor in the terminal. So, for example, if you were working on a remote server, particularly if it was Unix based, it likely, and you wanted to edit some files, Vim is one of the go-to editors for that kind of work. It's kind of it and its older predecessor Vi are kind of like everywhere. You can always expect them to be there. And they have a set of, they're all based around, they kind of predate, having everyone having a mouse and being able to just use their cursor willy-nilly through the mouse. So they have all these, you could call them conveniences for editing text through your keyboard alone. So for navigating files, for issuing commands, for jumping around the file, for editing text in bulk, or like jumping ahead or forward or backwards or whatever. Vim has all these key bindings to support that. And so you'll see when people are very experienced with Vim and they've spent years and years and years working in it, they kind of know all of its magic, so they can be very proficient. So you might see some of this later on the stream, because I actually have Vim emulation in VS Code, which we'll be using. So you might see me editing a little bit and see some of that. We'll have to see how that actually looks, because VS Code is like emulating Vim 2. So I'm not sure how that will actually look, but we'll go from there. Long story short, so that's Vim. So we're trying to get Vim.
I pulled it up, did a little demo while you were talking.
Oh, sounds good. We're trying to get Vim support into Octo. So CodeMirror supports this. It has Vim emulation already built in. We just have to give it the right settings, essentially, to turn that behavior on, and also pull down the extra behavior to support that Vim emulation. So that's kind of what we're doing here with this code, is we're setting up this key map for Vim key binding specifically. So when you keep seeing this key map variable around, it's essentially saying, you're saying, I want Vim key bindings. So
nice. Yeah, I think that was a good, solid, pretty thorough overview of Vim. I mean, to summarize, actually, before I summarize, Squiddy, I don't even know how to define that as far as code goes, but we are making things work over here. So I'm gonna go ahead and just say yes. We got this air horn sound over here, which I can't play because DMCA, but if I could, that's what I'd be playing right now. To summarize, like what Austen said again, Vim is a text-based text editor, whereas a lot of text editors have a GUI where you can interact with a mouse or the keyboard, typically a combination of both. Vim is keyboard only. And then, Octo, obviously, you can interact with Octo to a certain degree with your mouse, but not when it comes to typing. When you type, you use your keyboard. And so for Octo, we want to support the full Vim key binding set when you're actually typing in the text editor portion of the app. Of course, Octo has other key bindings as well to help you navigate the application itself, but when it comes down to the actual markdown editor itself, which, just taking a brief glimpse at the code, is the markdown editor component, we want to have the full power of Vim, because Vim is really built for text editing. And that, even if we're writing documents or notes or what have you, text editing is still what we're doing, even if we're not just writing code. So, yeah, I think that was super solid and thorough. As far as what we need to do versus like what's already done, it seems like the Vim key binding, actually implementing of that functionality, like Austen mentioned, it's already handled by CodeMirror. So essentially what he had to do was just turn it on, but not just turn it on all the time, and he also had to build out the configuration piece for Octo for a user, one of us, to be able to go in and either enable or disable that key binding feature, because for someone who's not familiar with Vim, it could be really confusing if you hit a key on your keyboard and then you go into this different editing mode and random shit starts happening. So
that's famously one of the things about Vim that's kind of like an internet joke / meme is the fact that for example, when you just pop open a file in Vim, you
How do
actually
you exit?
You're not immediately editing code. You actually have to hit I to enter insert mode. And then if you actually want to exit it, you can't just use normal like controls. There's actually a very specific, you have to open like the command like prompt like by hitting colon and then like :Q. And so there's this whole thing about how do I quit Vim? Because once you open it, if you don't know how to use Vim, you're just stuck.
It's easy.
So,
you just unplug your PC and then you're done.
Yeah. So anyway, long story short, it's confusing for sure if you're not used to it. So you don't want it on by default.
Awesome. So I'm thinking, quick review. This looks good to me. Stylistically, it seems to be following the same sort of styles that we've laid out previously in the app, or semantics, I guess, would be maybe more appropriate. Not that this app is fully standardized in the way that we write code. The biggest piece is actually going to be in this CodeMirror helper.js file. This is actually where we already do the dynamic loading of excuse me. It's where we already do the dynamic loading of some CodeMirror code. So this is actually going to I think this is going to be a good place to implement at least one of the helper functions where we do the fetch and the injection of that script into the DOM. And then I think whether or not we do that is actually going to happen in the editor. We're going to have to check the setting, and then once the editor is mounted, we're going to kick off that interaction. So looking at VS Code here, I have the markdown editor component open. I don't know if it's open on your end, Austen. Awesome. Yep, I see your cursor in there now. So we're using a feature of VS Code. You might have noticed I'm using a different editor. Typically I use Atom. And Atom has its own sort of implementation of this live pairing feature as well. I've never used it, but the VS Code feature managed by Microsoft is pretty solid. So we decided to use the VS Code editor, and we're using this feature called Live Share to be able to share not just our files, but also our cursors. As you can see, Austen's cursor moving around on the screen. The terminal is shared, so we can both type in the shared terminal, and we can both access the instance of the server that's running on my machine right now. Speaking of which, I never actually kicked that back off, so let's go ahead and run that. This one I'm not doing in the terminal down below. I'm just doing it in my own terminal. Serve dev. Perfect. So I believe the live share is still already sharing localhost 8888. Looks like it is. So once this spins up here, okay, it should be running. So you should be able to see on your end, Austen, whether or not it's actually up and running. Looks like it is on my end, and I see this new key maps feature right here. So perfect. So once you verify on your end if that's working, then we can kind of run through where I think the changes are going to need to happen.
All right, see here. Yep, I have Octo.
Awesome. Perfect. So in here, you see that we're actually pulling out just one helper method from CodeMirror helper. And this helper method, well, a couple of things. So first of all, in order to pull out a method in this CodeMirror helper file, it means that this entire file has to be parsed wherever we're referencing it, so in this import. And so the reason that the key binding code is already loaded at this point in time when it's being imported inside this file is because we're pulling something in. So actually, if we were to not be using the helper file, the Vim key binding feature would not be imported. But since we're importing this load mode, it causes the file to be parsed, which also includes the import of the CodeMirror Vim key binding. So I'm going to open up the so used to Atom shortcuts, CodeMirror helper.js, and we've got this little CodeMirror mode meta import. That's not the right thing.
I was going to say, it looks like our file, are we in...
Oh, I know what it is, and I'm afraid our live share is going to drop, so we might have to reconnect. But so here's what's happening. I have my instance open here. So let me try to, no, don't save. Let me try to swap the project. I feel like it's going to fail though, so I might have to reestablish the live share connection, but let me go ahead and try. We'll see what happens. Open, is it a workspace? No. Just, whoops, not that. I think it's just open, file open. I see add folder to workspace. Maybe that's what I want to do. So let's try this with Austen, Madden, Octo. Well, okay, and then if I remove this folder, are we still there? You still connected?
It did disconnect me, but if you re-invite me, you can just get the show
okay,
on
nice.
the road again.
Here we go. Yeah, I figured that was going to happen. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But now, I was a liar before, but now if we open CodeMirror helper, why is it still opening from the wrong project? That's interesting. Yeah, see, look, it's, is it because it's in my recently opened? Let's try it now. There we go. Now we're good, and we've got the CodeMirror keymap Vim import here. So, the sort of lazy loading that's already being done is for all of the language syntax modes, because as you can imagine, CodeMirror has been around for a while, and so it supports a large number of syntax highlighters. And so originally, when I built Octo, I actually had it eager load all the syntax highlighter scripts, and that was a lot of files. It pulled in, like, I don't know the exact number, but it was more than 20 different like syntax highlighter JavaScript files. And I did do it as a asynchronous operation. So what would happen is when you first loaded the Octo editor, it would automatically kick off the loading of each of those in the background after the app loads. So it didn't really affect app performance, but it's still not a great experience to have it just download and cache all of those files if you're only going to use like a quarter of the languages that are available, right? So instead, what it does now is, instead of pre-caching everything, it lazy caches everything. So anytime we actually call one of these mode files, a mode in CodeMirror is just a language highlighter. So it's a tokenizer and a lexer. And so anytime we load one of these files, I actually have my manifest set up and my service worker strategy set up to cache this file so that any future calls, it just pulls from the cache and it doesn't have to fetch it every time you load the page. And so it's doing that lazily though. So it only does it once it actually is requested for real one time, which means if you're using Octo in offline mode and you try to add a new language block that's never been done before, it's not going to highlight it. And that's because, again, we don't pre-cache all the languages anymore because that's just a lot of data to shove into someone's browser for, just in case they needed that language syntax feature at some point. Now, once it's cached, the syntax highlighting works offline perfectly, which means after you've already created a couple of files with a couple of basic languages like JavaScript, HTML, CSS, SQL, whatever ones you're going to use, Ruby, you can use it fully offline, no issue. We're going to take the same strategy, though. We're going to apply the same strategy, but we're going to do it for one specific file, which is going to be the Vim mode file. Whoops. I'm apparently clicking and dragging things, so hopefully I'm not breaking stuff. And it's going to work very similarly, right? So it's going to be based off the CodeMirror version. The version here is pulled from the CodeMirror library. So we're doing a mix of library bundling, so local bundling, and CDN loading. And so all the core CodeMirror features are bundled into the Octo application, but any tertiary features are just lazy loaded through the Cloudflare CDN. So that's where we're at. I think that's sufficient, again, especially with the lazy cache strategy, where once you've downloaded it once, it's just cached in your browser indefinitely, essentially. It does check for updates periodically, but it won't find them since we're doing a specific version. So yeah, I think that is what we want to do. And it's going to be similar. It's going to be similar to add mode script and get mode URL. And actually, we might even modify this add mode script to just be an add script function, which then we can use for modes and also some of these other non-mode files. Because who knows, we might want another code mirror feature down the road, right?
We want all the features.
Yeah, exactly. So to get started, I'm just running through, load mode, fuzzy find mode, get mode URL, add mode script. All of these are just kind of like mode specific features. And we're going to, what do we want to call it? Load Vim, I guess. So
yeah, we can start with that and go from there.
So we're going to have load Vim. This is going to be exported, as you can see, because we are going to be allowing this to be triggered from another file. This is going to be triggered from the markdown editor file once the editor is mounted and once we've checked to see whether or not the setting is enabled. In here, I don't think we need to pass anything. I don't think we actually need to pass any parameters, at least for now, so we'll leave that blank. And it's going to be not exactly the same, but somewhat similar to what we're doing here above. So before we actually write this out, what do we need to do? We need to build the URL for the Vim mode. We need to build the script tag, and then we need to add the script tag to the DOM, right? And then adding it to the DOM is what actually allows it to do its thing. Similarly to what we're doing for load mode, I take it back, we probably do actually want to pass a callback of some sort, because what we're going to want to do in order for the Vim keybinding feature to work as expected, I do believe we're going to have to sort of refresh the editor once the script has been loaded. So we're probably going to want to pass in an on success and on failure callback, similar to what we're doing with add mode script. So in load mode, we pass an options object, and that options object, if you go back up here, you can see that it has an on load and on error handler. Those are just basic function callbacks that are added to the script tag so that we can gracefully handle the situation where it fails, which, to be honest, I don't know if I'm actually handling that. And then beyond gracefully handling the option, if it fails, we want to make sure that we can trigger some sort of functionality as soon as it's done being loaded, such as reloading the editor. And that I do think we're going to need to do. So I lied. This will be accepting an options object, trigger callback. So we've got load Vim. It accepts an options object. We need to refactor add mode script. Really, just most of this functionality we're going to pull out into an add script, right? All we're going to pass into that is a URL and then on load on error. I think just 3 straight parameters make sense there. So
makes sense to me.
Let's go ahead down here. Add script. And URL on load on error. Boom.
And David, just to step back a little bit.
Sure.
I wanted to also just go over. So one of the things, I didn't always understand when I first started working with the web is, so when we want to lazily load a JavaScript asset, I kind of want to talk a little bit about how the browser handles JavaScript modules pulled in when script tags. So
sure.
Kind of what we're relying on here is the browser environment when we set that script tag in the DOM to kind of understand that it should load this asset lazily. And I think that just
right.
I just wanted to kind of address that, just since that's kind of the crux of like what this code is doing.
Yeah, that's a good call. So typically when you have a script tag in a document, in an HTML document, obviously, it is run through procedurally. So every element in your HTML document is typically run through procedurally, meaning if you were to break an XML document down into its actual like tree hierarchy, it runs through the nodes in order, and it executes the node. It executes the node's children. It kind of goes the entire depth of the tree, but it does go in linear order. Now, once the document is completely loaded, once the DOM content loaded event has been fired, you've kind of gone past that step, which is where we're going to be at here. So once the DOM content loaded event has been fired, any mutations or modifications you do to the document, they happen asynchronously because they happen based off of whatever execution block they're running in. So when you're running some JavaScript code, all of this code is actually running asynchronously that we're looking at right now when it does get executed. And so the actual modification of the DOM injecting this script tag is running in an asynchronous JavaScript process. It's non-UI blocking at that point. And then going forward, however, because it's happening asynchronously, there's no way to sort of chain and say, it's not just asynchronous in like the typical JavaScript sense. It's more like event-based. So there's no way to say add something to the DOM and then once that thing is done, do something else, right? Like DOM modifications don't have promise wrappers. So there's no way to say like, modify the DOM, then do this thing. And it's not so much that the modification itself is asynchronous, it's that the AJAX call that happens as a side effect of adding the script tag itself is asynchronous. So I don't know if there's anything else like you want to touch on there or call out specifically, but I think the key point is knowing that when you add script tags to a document after the document has been evaluated, it is no longer operating under the same restrictions that it operates when the script tag is already in there when the page loads.
Nope, that sounds good. But we can continue.
Cool. And so because of that sort of asynchronous nature of the HTTP request that happens in the background, thankfully the browser does give us these event handlers that the browser then comes in and calls based on what happened. So if the browser can assure you that it successfully fetched the resource that you wanted it to fetch and then actually got it loaded into the document, the onload event is called. Really, the onload callback is called. And then if it doesn't succeed, whether that's through network failure or some sort of client-side failure, on error is called. And we can use these hooks in that lifecycle to allow us to, run code in a seemingly procedural way. Hey, Gaming, welcome back. He says hello to both of us. Don't want to take up too much time, but how are y'all? Doing really well. We've just been kind of reviewing the code that we already started with here, that Austen worked on in his own time, and just kind of laying out our plan of action of how we're going to take this code that's currently being preloaded or added to the overall bundle of this app and instead do a asynchronous or lazy load of the functionality. The reason for that is this keymap Vim file is fairly large, and therefore it would have a decent impact on our bundle size of the app. Is the script area JavaScript? Yes, exactly. So this is actually just a plain JavaScript file right here that we're looking at, but the typical areas that are I knew what you meant. It's okay. The typical files that we're working in that you've seen before gaming are view files, and those are template files. If I could remember the shortcuts here. Markdown editor. I actually needed this open anyway. Markdown editor.view, and we've got template sections, which are HTML with view directives. We've got script sections, which are just plain old JavaScript and then we've got style sections, which are of course CSS here. So Gaming is working on an introductory course right now, actually, Austen. So he is just starting to grind his teeth on like the basics of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
Gotcha.
But jumping back over, not to hop around too much, yeah, ask away. Feel free. Gaming said he's going to have a lot of questions, and that's awesome. I love questions, love being able to answer them if possible, or at the very least, being able to help you find some resources on the subject. So we're doing a little bit of refactoring here. We've got add mode script. We're going to pull out the actual creation of the script element into here. We're going to pull out the script URL, and instead of get mode URL mode, we're going to just say URL because we're passing it in as a parameter. And then we're going to set our callbacks if they exist, because they are optional. And at the very end, we append that script to the body to actually have it load in that JavaScript file. So most of the code we had written, I probably could have just changed the name and then rewritten one, but most of the code we had written is going to be fairly reusable. The only part that's not is this get mode URL. And so instead, we're going to just call this const mode URL equals get mode URL from the mode. Right? And then we're going to say add script mode URL options.onLoad options.onError. And we can delete all of that because I just copied it all over. Boom. So this, your cursor's in the way, I can't tell. There we go. I was missing my, I couldn't tell I was missing the semicolon there. So we generate the URL and then we call add script. Boom. Now we're going to be able to reuse this add script in our load Vim call down here. So first things first, const Vim, what do I even want to call this? Key map. I'll just call it Vim. Vim URL equals, and again, it's going to be fairly similar to what we've got here. Main difference being it's not actually going to be mode based, so I'm going to pull up the Cloudflare CDN for CodeMirror. So let's go ahead and do that. And we should have Vim in here. It's right here. So I'm just going to copy this URL because this is going to be the basis of what we're going to be doing. We're just going to interpolate out the version itself. So, which 5.58.2 has a change from me in it. I'm pretty happy about. I added, I didn't add the mode for WebAssembly, but I did add WebAssembly's mode to the meta file so that I could dynamically look it up and use WebAssembly, because the mode existed, but it wasn't added to the meta file, which is how you can actually like dynamically in CodeMirror say, hey, do you support this mode? If so, I'm going to use it.
Kind of like a service directory.
Yeah, exactly. And it actually was missing the WAST extension, which is WebAssembly text format. So
nice.
I got to make that little PR against CodeMirror. That was fun. All right, so here's our, I'll just call it our reference URL here. So libs CodeMirror version, and then instead of all this mode stuff, we're going to have keymap vim.min.js. Boom. Done. All right. So we build the URL. Good enough. We do all the things right here. So all of these are going to be taken care of in one call, which is going to be add script vim URL options dot onload. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and make this accept an options object too, just to make the passing a little bit simpler. So let me fix this reference above. We're just going to pass in options. We're going to accept actually right here, I actually would have had an error there anyway because I didn't update these references. So we're just going to actually use some ES6 helpers here to extract onload and on error, and then we can make our code here even a little bit simpler. Whoops. Boom. So there we go. So we accept an options object. What's that?
I said yay to structuring.
Oh, I know. I love it. Such a fan. And we pass in the options object, and we'll do the same thing down here. I really need to keep up with chat here. There's a lot going on, and I was not paying attention at all. Give me 1 second to catch up. Thanks. I'm glad my video looks crisp. I have a whole new lighting setup. Nowhere near as awesome as Tiff's, but it's makeshift and it'll do. And no, not a camera upgrade. Same camera, just better lighting. Lighting makes a big difference. Exhausting, but all right. I'm getting to the point where I have the energy to get through work, which is nice. Still looking to find a new job, though. Thanks for asking. Yeah, gaming. Got to get into this dev industry. Highly recommend.
Can concur. It is right dumb.
Yeah, and then Gaming said I'm doing a class to get into web development, but that'll take some time to build my portfolio. Yes, it does take some time for sure, but you're on the right track. You know, consistency is the biggest thing. If you are consistently working on this, and especially if you find some sort of like drive or interest in this subject, in this area, then I'm pretty confident that you will be able to find something at some point. Okay, so we pass in the options object, we build the URL, we pass it in, good to go. I mean, this might actually end up being fairly straightforward. We'll go ahead and export load Vim here in the default object as well. And I think we might be good to test this out. So let's drop that. Looks good. Okay. Does CodeMirror supply, do you know, does CodeMirror supply any sort of visual indicators when the Vim key map mode is on?
You'll notice it does change the cursor.
The cursor changes, okay.
Yeah, so it changes to look much more like what you'd expect if you were actually in Vim. So it's the blocky, kind of highlighty, and then it just changes like when you go into insert mode.
Okay.
If this is kind of making sense. So in Vim, the state of like what mode, whether you're in insert mode or like anything else, it uses the cursor to kind of communicate that. And so the Vim emulation does something similar. And so you'll see differences in the way that represents.
Okay, interesting. Wait a second. Add modes. Okay, now we're good. Nice. I'm excited to test it out here in a second because I haven't actually tried it. I've only looked at the code for it. So we've got load mode. We're going to also pull in load Vim here. So this is where we get to the point where we actually determine, do we dynamically load it or not? The cool part is the entire editor settings object is passed into the markdown editor. So it's going to be really simple to determine if we need to or not. So settings, the type is an object, so we don't define the subtypes here, which is totally fine. Initial cursor, cool.
And David, when you get a chance, our project file mishap earlier did break the Octo sharing, so we'll need to start that up again.
Oh, the server?
Uh-huh.
Let me go ahead and just test that now. So, oh yeah, look at that, it's gone now. When I close that directory, I bet. So 8888 and localhost 8888. Perfect. Okay, that should be up and running again, so let me know if that's having any more issues. Okay, so key map. Excuse me. This.settings.keymap or CodeMirror.defaults.keymap. Speaking of, I was wondering where this CodeMirror object came from. Is that a global?
I believe it was coming from...
Oh, it's from view CodeMirror. Here we go. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. just wanted to make sure I was following that. Okay. Looks good. And awesome. So what we're going to do is we've got sort of two ready events. Hang on before I actually get into that. Voracious Dev. Maybe Santa will give you the same lights that I have. Yeah, that would be amazing. Tiff has these nanoleaf lights, which are crazy bright and super adjustable. So people around here who are in that line of work don't like to share much info. In what line of work? In development? Is that what you're talking about? Because I find that odd. But I don't know. I guess maybe some developers are a lot more reserved about what their work life is like. Dev's an approachable guy. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Homies help homies. Exactly. If you have a line to Santa, PS5 or gaming PC. Wink, wink. Yeah.
My friend waited in line at Micro Center to try to get one of the new Radeon 6000 series GPUs that just came out, and apparently the Micro Center that only had 15 total units, so he was 30th in line and did not get the new GPU. So
that's rough. That is rough. I feel for that.
He got up at like 5 a.m. I've never done. It's been years since I've done something like that, and the fact that he didn't get anything out of it is just so heartbreaking.
Yeah, that is. Oof. Okay, I'm gonna. So what we're gonna need to do, like I already mentioned, is I do think we're gonna have to reset the editor after we load the Vim mode itself. Otherwise, it's probably gonna break. It's probably gonna throw an error or something about like the script not being loaded when we try to use the Vim key map. But let's go ahead and see, actually. Let's see what happens. So we removed the auto-loading of the bundle, right? So let's go ahead and test things out. Check our console. Good. Good to go. Now if I load the editor. Whoops. Oh, first I need to update my settings to use the Vim key map. Yes, an error. Cannot read property attach of undefined. That is in code mirror. Cannot read property attach as of undefined. Object eval as key map. Yes, so this seems to be a runtime error that's being caused by the fact that Vim is not available yet. So I'm actually thinking now maybe this should be a maybe this operation should happen somewhere else. Maybe this operation should happen as soon as the settings are done being loaded into the app when the app first starts up. Because if we try to load the CodeMirror editor with the Vim keymap mode turned on, before the file is actually loaded in the browser, that's going to be a problem. Right? So that's kind of where we're at. Sort of a chicken and egg problem with what I was planning to do, but it makes sense. So I guess let's see where the editor is initialized. Yeah, so the editor automatically gets loaded because I'm now using View CodeMirror. Previously I was using CodeMirror directly, and I still am referencing obviously the CodeMirror bundle for some certain features, but I swapped it out to clean up the code base a little bit with a Vue implementation of CodeMirror, just because it fit and it did simplify the code base a bit. Let me pull open the reference there, because we may need to see if there's some sort of hook that allows us to run code and wait for a callback before actually mounting the component.
That makes a lot of sense.
So before change, key handled, or I have another idea, though I don't know how easy it is to change settings on the fly. But we could always load default settings first, kick off the loading of the script, and then update the CodeMirror settings. So that's another option. But let's see, I've got input read before selection change, option change, scroll cursor into view, update, ready and input. Okay, none of those events are what I'm looking for. Excuse me.
So I guess to kind of talk about, so JavaScript is event-based, and as we talked about, it's asynchronous in many regards. So things are happening in ways that aren't imperative, where, you know, A happens and then B happens and C happens. It's more like A, B, and C are all happening off in their own little worlds, but they can talk to each other through events. So in this case, we're looking for what events are being emitted, so that way we can say, oh, something happened. Here's some kind of logic that we want to run when that event happens.
Right, exactly. See if I can not spill water all over my desk. There we go. I have this giant water bottle. I don't know if you can see the stream, but other people on the stream have already seen it. I have this giant water bottle, and it's been a little bit of a pain to try to drink out of while I'm standing here, and like I have to move my mic around and everything, so I decided to get a cup instead.
Oh, nice. I have a wide mouth analogy, and I've definitely like dumped water on myself multiple times.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. So, okay. Yeah, and the asynchronous nature of JavaScript can be amazing, but it also can be a bit of a pain to work around sometimes when it's really when technologies, so libraries or tools that you're using, just aren't built to handle certain cases, right? That's where it starts to become a big problem. So
for sure, it's also important when the way you write things too. If you're used to working in languages where you work more imperatively, where you write something and you write something else and you write something else, and they all get called in order, you'll fall into this trap immediately where you're like, well, I called this and I wanted the return value and I did something here and but nothing's happening, and you don't know why, and it's because, well, the chain of execution is very strange, and if something is asynchronous, you need it to resolve, and then do something with that resolved value, and it's like this whole mental model that's just completely different. So you kind of have to wrap your head around it.
Yep.
And I feel like almost everyone gets it wrong the first time, and then has this moment where they're like, I hate JavaScript, but eventually you learn.
So what I'm wondering is, I'm wondering if we can dynamically update the options object, like after we've loaded the script, and just leave it as default for the editor to load up, right? So the editor will load up in the default mode always, but as soon as that script is done loading, it will dynamically update this options object with the key map if it's available. And when this happens the first time, I guess it all depends on where we actually do this loading of the script file. But when it happens the first time, it could potentially be delayed. I still don't think we'll even notice it. But any subsequent try, since it's loading directly from the cache, it definitely would not be delayed at all. So what I'm kind of thinking is, just to kind of visualize this a bit, is we've got const, I'll just call it dynamic options.
And David, while you're writing this, if anyone can or has heard a cat on the stream, I am sorry. I do.
Why would you be sorry?
And he is very upset that I'm not paying attention to him. So.
Aw, I love it. So, we love cats. Exactly. Tiff knows. So, I need to set some dynamic options only when the script has finished loading. We can check to see if the script so here's the thing. So I can have the script dynamically load anytime the editor is in focus, but what that essentially means is actually I take that back. Using our helper, this actually keeps a cache of what scripts it's loaded. If I do the same thing for Vim, then it will only load once per app load no matter where we load it from, whether that's from the editor or somewhere else. So that's probably what we want. So I'm going to do something like let Vim loaded equals false. Right? Why is that a different color? Because it's not used, okay. So let Vim loaded equals false, and then down here, what we're going to do is we're going to change this a little bit. We're going to, what are we going to do? I'm going to wrap the on. This is going to be interesting. I'll do this inside. I can't do it inside add script, so I have to do it right here. We're going to create a new callback. So it's going to say const on load equals and all it's going to do is say Vim loaded equals true. Actually, I can do that all in a one-liner. Okay. And then we're going to, instead of adding the whole options object, we're going to pass in on load. Yeah, I'll do it this way just to make it really explicit, although I'm going to be using one more arrow function than I actually need. So we're going to say on load is going to call on load, and then also if options dot on load, then options dot on load, right? And then we're going to do just on error. And that one, actually, I can't do it that way. So options dot on error. Did I spell that right? Error. Okay. Okay, so what we're doing here, yeah, I'm going to change this actually just to make it a little cleaner. That doesn't, I thought it was going to look a little cleaner this way, but I lied. That was wrong. So we're going to have two things happen. We're going to call Vim loaded equals true, and then also we're going to call our options on load if necessary, right? And then now down here, all we have to have is the two functions.
And so, David, just to talk about this too, since this is another trippy thing. So the scope of
yeah.
in JavaScript,
arrow
you have
functions.
this Lexil scoping of essentially like the functions where they're defined contain. Oh boy, man, I'm struggling to try to word this, so bear with me. Depending on where a function has been defined, it will accrue the scope from the function that encloses it. So in this case, options is defined in load Vim. Therefore, onload also knows what options is because that's where it's defined. And so where onload will actually be called is nowhere near, it's not going to be called from within inside load Vim.
Right.
But because it was defined here, it's going to know what options is. And that's just kind of the way variables are kind of maintained inside JavaScript. So
right.
It's kind of quirky because a lot of other languages do not work like that.
Exactly, yeah. Oops, there we go.
It's very handy though, because we use it for all kinds of crazy things, like making some stuff private versus others public. It's kind of useful for all kinds of crazy stuff. So.
Oh yeah, and the syntax is just really clean too, which I love. I'm a big stickler about syntaxes and language syntax, so that's super helpful. Okay, so this constant, what this is essentially going to do though is it doesn't matter how many times we call load Vim. It's not actually going to inject like 10 script files into our DOM because there's no reason to do that. It's only ever going to inject one into the DOM. And so actually that's the part I was missing here. So right here now we just say if not what was it, Vim loaded, then we add the script to the DOM, because you don't need to add it more than once. If we're ever in a, what just happened? Oh, that was weird. If we're ever in a
I might have, the cat actually attempted to code, so the cat might have deleted some code.
I'll make sure it's good. Okay, we're good. So if we're ever in the same, because we share the same, talking about the lexical context here, if we share the same context, then we know if Vim loaded equals true, then this code got run, which means this script is in the DOM, right? We can infer that. And so we know that the only way Vim loaded is true is if the onload function got called. And if that is ever reset, the only time that would be reset is if it were either A, explicitly removed from the DOM, which we're not doing, or B, the page is reloaded, in which case Vim loaded equals true would be reset back to Vim loaded equals false. So this is sort of like the caching mechanism, not caching, but like the, what would you call that?
Memoizing?
Yes, thank you. This is like the memoization action that we have to make sure that all of these script tags aren't being injected and therefore being processed more than once. Some of which, if they're not idempotent, could potentially cause errors, right? Awesome. So that looks better. Now, I do think we're going to be able to do what I was mentioning. I guess there's one more thing, which is I probably want to be able to pull this out. No. How do we check to see if Vim is loaded in our editor now? This is the piece that's going to be important so that we know to update our options object, right? So I wonder if there's something in CodeMirror for checking to see if Vim is already loaded. Are you familiar?
No, I'm trying to think. Let me go look at the documentation for on the official CodeMirror site, and then we'll go from there.
It looks like CodeMirror.vim object would exist.
Okay, makes sense.
So that should be easy enough to test, right? Let me leave this for now, and we'll just do a simple console.log CodeMirror.vim. And it should not be there, right? Why did that not work? CodeMirror is not defined. That makes sense because I capitalized it. Undefined. Perfect. So that will be our test, right? So simple enough. If not CodeMirror.vim, then we'll call load Vim. We will pass an options object here with onLoad being an arrow function, and onError being an arrow function. OnLoad, we want to update the key map settings. So the default key map, again, we're going to comment out this. Oh, it's already commented out. CodeMirror is not defined at vim.min.js. Oh, goody. And that's because, I already know why that's happening. That is happening because of where we define window.codemirror. So this is kind of an interesting problem I ran into. So right here, see this? This has to happen anywhere where this code is executing in the browser context, which means, you know, code that's not being compiled through the bundling process, but code that is being dynamically run later. And what this essentially does in the bundling process, this takes the bundled version of CodeMirror and makes it explicitly available in the window object if it's not already available in the window context. So this is kind of like a weird step for marrying the two concepts of the bundled version of CodeMirror and the window, or sorry, and the browser context
CDN.
of CodeMirror. Yep. And I'm not using the browser context of CodeMirror, but because we're pulling in scripts from the browser context, they expect it to exist on the window object. So, yeah, interesting stuff, but that's what we're dealing with here. So what I need to do is, I probably need a way to do this only once, but I'm going to go ahead and just, for now, I'm just going to copy this code in, where should I copy this code? I guess right here after the import. That's probably a good enough place. I'll do that up here. It should solve our problem, I believe. CodeMirror is not defined. Cool. Oh, two problems. So it's actually not this. This isn't even an issue. It's happening because of load Vim. Load Vim also references CodeMirror.version, right? So this call actually needs to be moved or copied. For now, I guess I'll copy it into load Vim. It's going to have the same exact problem, I believe. We'll find out. Look at that. Error's gone. So we should find a way to do that better. But for now, it works. Yeah, really, it's this.
We try to reuse code, but
yeah, right. When possible, for sure. A lot of this CodeMirror stuff I'm not incredibly happy with, and I definitely hope there's a better way. But at the same time, Octo is not 100% tied to CodeMirror as the solution for the editor, and might even change down the road. But for now, though, we work with what we got, and hopefully we can make it work elegantly without doing anything too hideous. So that's working though, so that's good to know. What was I going to test next? Down here. Oh yeah, so we need to update the key map on load Vim. So let's go ahead and just do a console.log Vim loaded. So that should work. Vim loaded, perfect. As we would expect. On error, handle errors. I'm going to put a nice fancy to-do statement in here. So, man, I keep dragging, and VS Code likes to just drag characters around when you click and drag something that's already highlighted. Or maybe that's Mac. I don't know what's causing it, but updating the key map. This is where we really just need to dynamically update the options object. The question is, where do we do that, right? So this is where I'm hoping that view CodeMirror actually has something. There's an option change event, but I don't know if that's it. I'm wondering if maybe, since options is already computed, I'm wondering if maybe instead I should be doing this inside of a mounted call. So let's go down, or actually even earlier, right? So this is, we could probably do this on like a before create or a created call. I'll do created right now.
So David, view components have lifecycle methods.
Right.
It looks like. So when you say we should put this in on mounted or created or wherever,
yes.
What you're saying is we should place this code at the point in the life cycle of the component that most makes sense. So certain things will be available in each of these stages, and so kind of like understanding like what each of these like view component life cycle stages is kind of important.
Yes, very good call out. So I just pulled up the view lifecycle diagram. I feel like this diagram is super helpful for understanding what exactly these lifecycle hooks mean. At the very least, there's a couple of like key points that you can look at, right? So when we talk about a view component, we can thought that was a TJ Miller. When we talk about a view component, we can really sort of like scope our thinking to that little file that we're looking at. And every Vue component runs through the same life cycle. And so this life cycle, Vue has done a really good job at defining what the life cycle looks like. And Vue has injected, essentially, you know how we talked about callbacks? We already talked about how when a script is loaded, it fires a callback. This is the same idea. Vue decided when building the framework that it would be really helpful to have callbacks at certain instances along the creation of a component. And so if you go in here, you can see that certain things happen when a component is being created. So we initiate events in lifecycle, initiate injections and reactivity. We do some checks. We compile it into a render function, or we compile the outer HTML as a template. We create specific variables that are accessible in certain functions in the template file. Mounted is called essentially once the component is actually added to the DOM, and it gets called multiple times, hence the before updated and updated. And then of course they also added lifecycle hooks for when a component is getting ready to be torn down because it is going to be no longer displayed in the view. Say we're changing routes or something. But each of these, because Vue knows, Vue is built for developers, they know that there's certain certain events along this timeline where we're going to want to do specific things. And so they give us these lifecycle hooks. And so to inject your own code to run at that point in time, you just have to define a method in the component called before create or created or before mount or mounted, etc. And Vue will run your code at that point in time. So awesome call out there, Austen. So I'm going with created here because I know, based on the Vue lifecycle, I know that created is late enough where the actual primary page has already been loaded. Whereas typically if I wanted to interact with the DOM elements inside of this component, then I would probably want to wait for mounted, because that's when the component has actually been, again, added to the DOM. But because I'm not actually dealing with anything in this component and I'm injecting a script that is going to load asynchronously, I'm going to call it a little bit earlier, and that's going to be helpful for me also because this script is totally okay being loaded before this component finishes mounting. First of all, totally safe, nothing wrong, nothing bad is going to happen. And also, in fact, it's better if it loads before the component's done mounting, because that means the options hash is going to be updated before our editor even blinks the cursor the first time. And therefore, we know that we're going to have the Vim mode enabled as soon as possible. So in created, we check to see if codemirror.vim is available. If it's not, we call load vim. On load, what we're going to do is we're going to create a local component data property. So we have covered this in the past, covered this subject of creating data properties. And it is just going to be key map, right? So we're going to call this key map, and the default value is just going to be whatever the whatever the CodeMirror default is. So codemirror.defaults.keymap. But then later, once our callback is triggered, we're going to update it to the proper settings key map, which may be different than this key map. It actually might not even be different. One more check we need to do down here is to see if we actually need to call load vim, because there's an editor setting that tells us if we need to. But that's when we will actually do the swap from the default setting to the Vim setting once it's done. So let me go ahead and create key map. The default value is going to be codemirror.defaults.keymap. Instead of pulling either settings or that, we're always going to be pulling directly from this .keymap. And go ahead.
I was going to say, you can tell I'm not used to being on a stream, because there's quite a few times where you've been walking through a concept. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. And then I'm like silently nodding here to myself instead of verbalizing my approval of what you're doing.
Hey, nodding to yourself is absolutely acceptable too. I nod to my own comments when I'm not on stream. Maybe even when I'm on stream, honestly. So nothing wrong with that. I'm like, yeah, okay, I am understanding this. I know what I'm doing. Trust me.
No
Okay.
greater feeling.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so settings.keymap, right? So I guess I don't remember what the value of keymap is. Let's go back. Keep hitting the wrong button. So settings module. Keymap, the default value, of course, is default. But the updated value,
I think it will just say Vim. It is literally the string Vim. I'm like mostly sure.
all right, that would be in the settings component, actually, right? Whoops, that was weird. Yeah, there we go. So where is it? Here it is, keymap. Value, and then value, of course, is going to be based on the radio. Excuse me.
Yep. Right there.
Vim, nice. It'd probably be good to have that in like a constant or something, but for now I'm just going to match the string. So, whoops, no, I don't want to close that. And we're just going to say if this.settings.keymap is equal to Vim and it's not loaded, then we do all these things. And then now we're going to update the keymap, and we're going to say this.keymap equals, I'll just do a direct Vim manipulation here. Really, we should probably be pulling in the editor settings. Actually, I'll just do that. So this.settings.keymap. Keep it reactive, you know. Perfect. So I think this should dynamically update the options, which I think is actually going to cause our editor to refresh itself, because I think CodeMirror already I think View CodeMirror already handles that event for us. So let's find out. Let's go ahead and do some more tests. All right, we've got some issues. Cannot read property keymap of undefined. How interesting. That's happening. That's not helpful. Markdown editor.view online. Oh, here we go. CodeMirror.defaults.keymap is returning as. So CodeMirror.defaults is returning undefined? Well, isn't that interesting?
Huh.
Okay, for now, just to work around that problem, I'm going to comment that line out and change it to just default, the string, and we'll come back to that. So I will, whoops, that does not duplicate. Damn, these VS Code shortcuts not being the same is really throwing me off. So we'll just call this default, right? And we'll see if that works. Hey, there we go. And so there's one last thing we want to do, and we want to actually see, is Vim loaded, right? So we want to see if all this works, and we can't really tell because there's not really many log statements. So we're going to say, not only is this set, we're going to console.log Vim loaded, and I'm also going to pass in, actually no, I'm just going to do that. Let's see. Vim loaded, perfect. So it looks like it's working. Hey, it's actually flashing. So this is working as expected. So if I go to insert mode, look at that. Here is some text. Escape. Escape is. Oh, I have escape overridden. Why do I have escape overridden? That's a pain. It is working though. Not escape isn't working, but the actual Vim mode is working now as expected, which is pretty awesome, and it seems like it's working fairly quickly too. Well, now it won't deselect. Oh, that's because I guess it goes to insert mode by default when you focus the editor. Well, let's see what the heck is going on.
I wonder if you're in some kind of if you hard refresh I'm curious if we're getting better because I don't know if I'm experiencing all the same issues you are on my copy that I'm running.
Let's find out. Hard refresh. Let me go to a new document. Okay, so it's flashing. I'm in edit mode. But if I do insert, hi, hit escape. So I actually do have an event listener on escape. Like, I know I do because I remember writing it. And I do think that it's just interfering right now. So let me remember where that is. Whoops, not that. Keybindings.js. Okay, it's not in here. I think it's in the keybindings module. So keybindings module. So not there. It's a global event, so it's right here. Disable listen. Oh, right. So I did it as a way to cancel. I'll show. Oh, is that you? Oh, okay. Yeah, you're like. No, I saw the like purple bar on the right side flying up, and I was just really confused what that was. So the reason I have this set up is so that when you do Command K to be able to do one of the keyboard shortcuts in Octo, so if I hit Command K like this, now escape is supposed to just cancel. So what I should do is, I think what I should do is this should just only be bound when Command K is active. Right? So,
yeah, sorry, I'm like staring at this code trying to process.
So Command K is kind of like my pre-hook. When I run Command K, see how it says toggle listeners? Well, when it toggles listeners, what it's doing is, if we scroll down, toggle listeners is either enabling or disabling all the listeners. And these are very simple listeners. These are temporary listeners that listen for the A key, the I key, the N key for like my shortcuts here. So when I do Command K, now the listeners are active only right now. If I hit escape, they're no longer active. But what it's doing is when they're active, I can just press N and it's going to give me a new document. I can press E, it's going to take me to the settings. And like, I don't want those active all the time, obviously, because if I press N when I'm typing, that wouldn't make any sense, right? So all I need to do is I need to set escape to only do something, only do this, only clear things when I'm actively have Command K pressed, or toggled, I should say, because you don't have to hold Command K down. You just press it, Command and then K, and then you can release, and this happens. So, but the point is, I think I could just move that global listener to enable listeners. And so enable listeners, let me find it. Right. Here we go. Bind listener. So enable listeners, plural, goes through and binds all of the individual listeners. So this one, again, is a little bit different because bind global works a bit differently than the regular bind key. So I think all I need to do is add escape to this list. Excuse me. I keep trying to do Command-Shift-D, which is how you duplicate lines in Atom. Do you know how to duplicate lines in... Well, not that.
I do not. I do know how to do it with the Vim emulation, but that is not helpful to you.
Yeah. Selection, copy line down, Option, Shift down. Okay, that's fine. So all I need to do is ESC, and then instead of go to, we're going to say context. Whoops. Oh, it fixed it for me. Context.dispatch. Is it context.dispatch disable listeners? Right. That's actually, where's my, here it is. Context.dispatch disable listeners. Yeah. Where did it go? Here we go. Boom. So now it should only override my escape behavior when I pressed Command K first, which is what I want. Like, there's no reason to override it otherwise. So let's see. And I commented out this line. So that, I think, will fix it. Let's go ahead and... Uh-oh. What did I do? Syntax error, unexpected token. Cool.
Line 40.
That's right up here. Oh, I'm missing a parentheses. There we go. All right, let's try this again. Escape is still not working. Is that not the key in CodeMirror to enter like the editor mode?
You mean like the enter editor mode?
Or not like insert mode, but the actual like edit mode. I honestly am just not sure, so that's why I'm asking. Let's find out. Code. Oh wait, do I still have CodeMirror Vim? Here we go. Oh man. Key map. Implemented. The default is default. That's helpful. CodeMirror Vim key map. Yeah, here we go. So here's a demo that they have. So this should insert, escape, insert, escape. Okay, yeah. So it's not capturing escape for some reason.
See, this is really interesting to me because so like I have our code running on to your copy that you have right now,
right?
And it was all working just fine for me.
Oh wait, I wonder if it's because my console is open. LOL. As soon as you said that, I remembered before that I've had issues with Octo specifically where when the console's open, certain like bindings were like affected.
Huh.
So,
you know, and I wonder if so. I have my console open, but I'm using Firefox, and I haven't.
Oh no, I still can't. After I type, it's still not working.
Now, okay, so go make a. If you make a new document.
Oh, I know what the problem is. No, I think. Oh, well, I think I know what the problem is. Maybe. No, it's still not happening. Oh wait, which makes. Does that make sense? Sorry, what you're saying? If I make a new document here, this is a brand new document. I'm
just curious if.
You're curious about what?
Oh, I'm just curious what will so for me. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to like watch the stream, but we're a little bit ahead, so then my visual thing I'm commenting on is a little behind. So for me, I am able to go in insert mode, hit escape, exit out of it. I can enter into a visual select, escape, exit out of it. So I'm not seeing some of the issues you are, and I don't know what the difference is between our environments. So I am curious what's going on here.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. That's super strange. Let me see. Also, I'm adjusting my volume a little bit because I think my mic volume might be a little bit loud through the stream, not to you, but anyone else out there, please let me know if that sounds a little bit better because it seemed like it was spiking quite a bit. Some text. Cool. Nothing. Better. Okay, good. Glad to hear that. What the hell? So the other issue I just realized, which is kind of an issue, which is a bit of a pain, is that when this component gets reloaded, it doesn't actually, so when you create a new document, right? So when you go from the document/new route and I start typing something, actually, that doesn't put me in edit mode either. Yeah, so the Vim like mode is being lost somehow. Look at, now it's not doing it at all.
What's your settings? If we just go through and debug.
Let's go ahead and look at the components themselves just to make sure. Let's look at markdown editor. Whoops, I'm not on the editor, so that would make sense. But yeah, the settings. Let's look at the Vuex state here. Let's go down into settings, editor, key map, Vim. So as it should be, right? Let's go back to add document. Now it's working. Interestingly enough. I
wonder if there's some kind of, sometimes when you're working in systems like this where you have hot reloading, stuff like that, things can get a little messed up depending on what's happening, how it's trying to load code in your updates. So maybe something got in a slightly off state.
Well, something weird definitely just happened because I just tried typing and my text didn't even show up. Which is super odd. I have not had that happen. Options. Yeah, so the key map is actually getting switched to default. And if I refresh the page here and load code mirror, the key map is staying as default. Okay, so that is what I was thinking was happening. And I kind of have an idea as to why that's happening. Which is, if we go back to Visual Studio Code. Couple of things. First of all, I'm running this on the created hook, right? So, first potential problem I see is that if this is getting run before the settings object finishes getting loaded out of IndexedDB, then key map is going to be default no matter what I have it saved as, right?
Yeah,
that's problem
that makes
number
a lot
one.
of sense.
And honestly, I think that could potentially be the issue we're running into here. So I think there's a fairly simple way to check that, which is, let's do a console.log this dot settings.keymap, and then we'll also I keep hitting Control T or Command T. So we'll also do in settings plugin dispatch settings loaded here. So right, we will if settings, and there will be settings because I have them. So console.log settings loaded. We'll see which happens first. Yeah, so it's running before the settings are even loaded into memory. Problem number one. Totally makes sense now why this is happening. Problem number two is a similar problem, but not exactly the same, and that is if I have a new document here, and because it wasn't loaded yet, that's why this is working when I switch to a new document. I don't know if this happens when I refresh the page. It does not. See, it only works when I switch to a new document from an existing document, or from a new document to an existing document, either way.
Since it initializes a new editor component,
exactly.
Goes through that initialization. Yeah.
Yep. And so the reason it doesn't happen when I refresh, no matter what, excuse me, is because, we already know why it's happening when I refresh. The second issue is that when I go from a new document to a separate document, the component actually gets remounted. So you see the URL changes. So Vim actually, when the component gets remounted, rather when the route changes, the component is forced to remount, and because it's getting remounted, it's running through that initialization process again. Excuse me. Which means if I get to this point where I'm at Vim, or if I get to the point where I'm like typing on a new document here, refresh the page.
And just
it must be like a race. It must be a race condition because occasionally it actually works. But
yeah,
or right, that's right. If I go from an existing one,
but it's consistently working for me, which I find interesting. Maybe I'm just getting lucky. To answer the chat too. Hi everyone. Ryan, yes, we are implementing a Vim mode.
Oh, what's up, Rusty?
Right now.
Oh, and hey, Hannah, how's it going? Hi, Octo. Hi, chat. Hi, David. I feel like that's your intro usually. Yeah, good call on that. I've been a bit distracted with trying to figure out what the hell's going on with my editor here.
You're very focused on this race condition, which is always the best.
Yeah.
The best spot to be in when you're coding.
Oh, Rusty, you're gonna love this. So I don't know if you got a chance to check it out yet, but if you didn't, the sidebar here, right? Remember the whole thing where it shows you, hello, world, things, shows you your tags now. Well, I don't know if you got a chance to check it out, but thing to do. Another thing to do. It shows the actionable items now as well. So, in case you didn't get a chance to check it out yourself, there you go, live demo. But I did get that implemented over the, I want to say over the weekend, on Saturday maybe. So, hopefully this is sufficient for now. So a couple of things, before we shift gears back to what we're just working on, just since you're on here, I was trying to consider like whether there'd be a clean way in the interface to show like indentation levels, because it currently ignores that, right? Like it doesn't show you indentation levels, but who knows? I'm gonna have to think on that a bit. Also, a really, really long thing that I need to do. Well, I didn't say do, but it collapses it too, using ellipses here. So kind of cuts it off. But for now, I just wanted to keep the interface like super simple. So hopefully that's sufficient for your use case at least. I personally find that new thing like super helpful. But yeah, sorry, Austen. I didn't mean to cut us away here.
Oh, no, you're good.
It is interesting that on your machine it's like totally fine. But who knows, you know?
I wonder, you know, it could be any number of settings. Like, I honestly might have it could be any number of things. My situation with Octo could be who knows what.
Yeah. Okay, so, but yeah, with the whole new component mount thing, if the script has already been injected in, key map, the whole key map thing is never going to be updated, right? So we kind of got back to that very first problem again, which is like we kind of need it to watch this .settings.keymap going forward. We just need the editor to be delayed mounting until that script is loaded in.
Are we dropping? So when we load the script, we're setting, we're loading it in via, we're setting a script tag in the DOM, which kicks off an asynchronous load.
Yep.
And we have a callback that is setting the key map onto the component when that happens. And so we're doing that and recycling that every single time we load a new editor.
Recycling every time we load a new editor. Yes.
So that seems like a smell.
Well, sorry, we're not doing it because it does this check, right? So this is going to be true the next time, right? So the second load, it would actually fail with this code mirror.vim check.
So it wouldn't load again the second time.
Right. It only loads once. That's the reason it's actually like, or I guess it's not the reason it's a problem, but it's one of the reasons it's a problem. So I do have an idea though. Kind of. Wait, let me think. Yes, I do have an idea. So we can make the check as to whether or not Vim has been loaded in reactive. And we can do that by, instead of tracking it inside of the code mirror helper, we can add this to the state, right? The Vuex store. And using that, we can know that if Vim has been loaded, that we just call settings.keymap, right? Or kind of a combination of both, right? Like we know we fall back to default if settings keymap is Vim and Vim is not loaded, right? Like that's really the case we need to handle. So that being said, let's go take a look. Excuse me. Markdown editor. I guess where should we keep track of that? In settings? I kind of feel like that should live. It can't live in the editor component state, because again, we need this to be global state, because the component's going to unmount and remount and all these things multiple times potentially. So I just have to figure out where in the, I swear if I don't quit hitting that key, where in the store. We've got the settings module, so that is one option. I'm just not sure if that's where I guess no, because this, yeah, I want to keep this clean. I want to keep it sort of like logically separated. So I'm thinking maybe we'll just do it in the main store, which right now is that. Yeah, there we go. Which right now does contain some editor-specific sort of things. Could be cleaned up a bit. We could have an editor object with some of these other things nested underneath, but we'll come back to that. So what I'm thinking is we'll have something like Vim loaded false, right? Because it'll never be loaded when this is first run, because the script will always have to be injected. So we'll say Vim loaded false. We'll create another action here for Vim loaded. I'll come back to that in a second. We'll update Vim loaded here, and then because we're going in the options, we're going to be checking both whether or not Vim is loaded and checking the settings object. That means if either of those changes, it is going to recalculate the editor settings. All right, which is good. That's what we want. And that also means that when the settings object is loaded, because we're now using that, we don't have to do any of this like timing nonsense with like settings being loaded from the IndexedDB, timing up with Vim being loaded in the DOM. It all sounds fine and good. Let's see if we can get it to work together. So we'll go ahead and do some of the scaffolding here for Vim loaded. So we're gonna just create one that says set Vim loaded, state payload, state.vim loaded equals payload. I'll just say is Vim loaded. I'm trying to get better about the naming of these payload objects instead of just calling them all payload. Okay, so Vim loaded is Vim loaded. Perfect. And I'll just call a commit directly. We'll do the action later. And then we will, actually for all of this for now, I'm just going to do a hard string just so we can hurry up and like test this, see if this route even seems like it's a good route to go. From the editor, it's going to be similar here. We're just going to say this dot store dot state dot commit set vim loaded true, right? All right, so now this is going to it's going to persist across component mounts. We're not going to be changing the key map object here. Instead, really this instead is going to be if not this dot store dot state dot vim loaded, right?
Sounds reasonable.
Get rid of that and that. All right, getting closer. And then now up above in here, we can get rid of this data property. And we're gonna get it closer to where we were, where key map is going to be if, I guess key map itself should be computed probably. So we'll just say, can I say this dot? Yeah, because I got rid of the data property. So key map, and we will say something like if, what do we want to do? If this dot settings dot key map is equal to vim and not this dot store dot state dot vim loaded, return default. Otherwise, return this dot settings dot key map. Now, everything's reactive, right? So now as soon as Vim is loaded, it'll automatically switch the key map, and going forward, the key map, both of these properties will be maintained across like loads. And that means even when settings is updated from default to Vim, like on page load, it shouldn't matter that that's all asynchronous. Oh, let's see. Again, good in theory as we talk about it, but I'm sure I messed something up. Not looking too good so far. What did I do? If, oh, I said if loaded, load it. That makes sense. If not loaded, load it. So this load call really is going to have to happen after the settings object is loaded though, because again, we don't want this load call. We probably don't want this load call to happen on the settings, right? I have an idea. We'll use a watcher. This is actually, I think, a pretty good use case for using a watcher. So what we'll do is we'll say watch. What are we watching? We have to create a computed property. So we'll say key
While
map
you're doing this, David,
setting.
Similar to how we talked about Vue component lifecycle events earlier, can we talk a little bit about some of these component properties?
Sure, let's talk about it.
Yeah, so I think I perfectly understand computed attributes just from what we just walked through, but let's talk about these watchers.
Sure. Do you want to talk about it, or do you want me to talk through it?
Go ahead and talk through it.
Sure. So anytime, because Vue uses object reactivity, which essentially means that we use this concept called observers and proxies to determine when the value of a given object or object property changes, Vue is very good at knowing when a piece of data changes. So when we store all this data in our store, in this, essentially this big hash, and we've got multiple hashes obviously, but each one of them is kind of part of one larger hash. But because it's all stored in one place, this is the source of truth. And so Vue knows where the source of truth is, and it knows when something changes using these newer technologies. And so when we update a value here, that essentially triggers an event, kind of like what we talked about before, throughout Vue to trigger anything else that is referencing that original object to recalculate. Because if I have a function somewhere that says, let's say my state, has A and B in it, and A equals 1 to begin with, and B equals 2, somewhere else in my code base, I might have something that says, I might have one method or one computed property that is the result of A plus B. And so if A is ever updated, we need to know that A plus B is no longer 2, right? So if A is updated to 2, then it's 2 plus 1, and so A plus B, that computed property, needs to be 3. And so Vue does a lot of this handling for us, where because everything is very reactive and it knows when something changes, it can then tell everything else that is referencing a given object to recalculate and update. And Vue, similar to the lifecycle hooks, allows us to kind of hook into this idea of watching objects for changes, and allows us to inject some code that runs anytime the value of something changes. And so the idea there is that if you need code to run anytime the value, switching back to what we're doing here, so anytime the setting object changes, if I need some code to run, but the code doesn't necessarily rely on settings itself, I only want it to run every time it changes, then I can just implement this idea of a watcher that just says, I don't care necessarily what the value is, like I might use it in my function, I might not, I just want you to run a piece of code anytime it changes. And that's really what a watcher is for. It's for implementing this idea that you have code that you need to run during a transition, and you're not really calculating some sort of end result based on that code. You just want to know when it changes. So feel free to jump in there, Austen, if you want to add anything else.
Yeah. No, that's why I'm delegating to you. You're very good at explaining these things.
Right, so what I'm doing here is, before we implement this watcher, instead of, you can watch like a giant string, like you can watch pieces of a hash by saying I want to watch, well, key map's not a good example, but I could say I want to watch settings.keymap, right? Which actually, that's funny enough, that could work. So I could say I want to watch settings.keymap, and that's going to say, essentially, I know I have this settings object, and I know this settings object has a keymap property, and anytime that property changes, I want you to run this code. So I was going to actually create, I forgot, funny enough, I was getting ready to pull it from the store, but I forgot that the store is actually already, or sorry, the values here are already being supplied, excuse me, through properties here, so through props. And so I don't even have to actually pull it from the state. I can just pull it directly from this.settings.keymap. So since that is small enough, I actually will use this. The idea is that the one problem, though, I see is I don't know. I might be able to use the square bracket notation around this. But the idea is that anytime that changes now, I want some code to run. I'm going to try this. I don't know if it's going to let me get away with this square bracket notation, but I'm hoping that it will. And so when settings.keymap changes, what I want to do is I want to do this if check, because what I'm really looking for is if settings.keymap ever changes to Vim, then I want to make sure that Vim code is loaded. So let's get rid of what I was just adding, because again, with it being part of props, I can actually write it in a pretty easy shorthand. And we're going to move. Oh shit, did I already copy that? I bet it's gone. Oh no, I still had it copied to my clipboard. We're going to move this code here, and we're just going to say settings.keymap watch. If not, this dot, so a couple of things. We're going to say if this.settings.keymap is equal to Vim now, because we know it changed, but we don't know what it changed to necessarily. So we'll say if it's equal to Vim and we haven't loaded Vim, then let's load it. And this is going to be helpful because it's going to run once when view is initialized, and it's going to be false because settings.keymap, the default value is default. And then it's going to run again once the settings have been loaded out of memory and, loaded out of the file system and into memory. And then that time it actually should load our file. We'll find out here. I think I messed something up. This.store. Oh, it's just store.commit, not state.commit. Whoops. All right, let's try it again. That looks good. All right, hey, look at that. We've got Vim mode. It's working. Okay, that's interesting. Hey, it's working now. That's exciting. I know what's happening on the new file too. That's an interesting side effect. I'll have to fix that. But essentially, when the component remounts, it's resetting to command mode or edit mode, whatever you call it. But it's moving away from insert mode. So when I switch to a new document here, and I type, if I go to insert mode and I type a letter, it immediately goes back into this edit mode because it's remounted the component. So now I'm wondering if there's a reactive way to track that.
I'm actually, well, I don't know. Is it a feature or a bug?
That is a bug, and only because the editor being remounted is something that's happening behind the scenes, but the user experience, like if you're in insert mode and I start typing hello, like that result is not what you want, because HELL does nothing, and then O inserts a new line, right? That's not what you want. Now, if I'm on an existing document, if I refresh the page here, and I go to insert mode, and I type out hello, it works just fine. And that's just because the redirection isn't happening until you first create a new document. So that's the only time it happens. So it's definitely a bug. But I am happy to see this working. I'm happy to see this this Vim plugin finally working, but so I need to figure out, first of all, does CodeMirror support this concept of dynamically triggering which
it does it does emit events. So, or I should say the Vim keymap does support event, like it publishes an event, emits an event for mode changes. So you could like bind that in your store and like keep track of that state, and then when you initialize, you can ensure that like the new instance is running that mode.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty much. So I'm actually doing something. I had a similar problem happen when I implemented this initially, because the same thing was happening with cursor position. So when I first implemented this, what would happen is I would start typing something, and then my cursor would reset back to the beginning of the line, like after one letter in my word, or multiple letters if I did like a copy paste, I think. But what I solved that by, when I do the redirect between the new page and the active document, I actually pass them in as properties to the component to initialize it with. So I can initialize it with a specific cursor position. And I think what we want to do is the same idea. We want to initialize it with a specific Vim mode, right? But that only happens on the redirect and not like any other time. So, and it's not all redirects, it's a very specific redirect, and I can show you in the code where that's happening. Okay, let's do that. So, are we still... Yeah, sorry, that's the computed one that's being used here. Okay, perfect. So we're getting close. It's really just that one little piece now, I think, that is blocking us. What time are we at here? 9:44? Been live for about 2 hours. Yeah, let's try to push through this part. I'll see how I'm feeling. I typically go about 2 hours here on the stream, but if we can knock this out fairly soon, then I don't mind going a little bit longer. I actually started a little bit earlier today too. And also, for you, feel free to tell me if you have to bail as well. So either way, like I definitely, that's no problem. So
I got time. This is a feature I'd like to see. So
you're like, I will stay up all night to get my Vim working. All right, cool. Well, let's see. So this is that prop, right? Initial cursor. And so we'll have the same thing. It's going to be like initial Vim mode. And it's going to be type string. Default is going to be default, right? That's the default value. Again, we might pull those out into constants later and pull them into like a code mirror constants file or something, but the first step is functionality, and then the cleanliness of the code can wait. So initial Vim mode, default, and I guess I'll do validator. Validator is going to be mode, and it's just going to be dot includes mode. Okay, so actually this doesn't even have to be, this can be all in one line for all I care. So I take that back. Always changing my mind. So we'll say default and Vim are the supported modes, right? Okay. That looks good. How, so it said code mirror, the doc said that we can pass the mode, but the question is, how do we pass the mode? Vim mode.
So
mode normal.
So yeah. So when you say mode, in this case, just
in this case, it's a little bit different. Yeah.
We have a lot of modes we're talking about here. So
right.
When you say how do we pass the mode, you mean specifically the mode that Vim is in.
Yeah, the Vim edit mode.
Right. So if you look at the top of the unminified vim.js file, it does have a comment that looks like this. And I'll delete this once we're done.
Okay.
That kind of gives you, this is how it represents its modes. So it's just a string with visual and then insert, etc. So we could represent that the same way as an object with mode and then possibly a sub mode if we really wanted to mirror state.
Oh God, I broke it. Sorry, I tried to paste something and now it's just, yep, my tab just locked up. File might be too big. You switch back to where you're at. Okay.
So, yeah, sorry. Were you focused somewhere else when
I was on the browser,
comment?
Yeah, and then I realized
okay.
like you were on yours. I do have the browser open, however.
Yeah, what I was sharing was just that. So.
Oh, that okay. Vim mode change raised on the editor anytime the current mode changes. Yeah, so that's like a change event. But what I'm looking for is like an initial value. So by default, the editor starts in like that edit mode. But what we want to do now is we want the editor to start in insert mode, right? For example.
Right. I guess I was wondering if it took the object it was emitting was also what it would take as part of its signature, I guess, in terms of an initializer. But
that's what I was wondering. So I don't think the mode file does. I think that the options that get passed to code mirror would though. I think there's a way to pass in mode settings here, right? So you pass in mode. You can the mode when you pass it in as an object, I believe, allows you to pass in like extra settings that get passed to the actual mode that's run. And this is specifically for like the language syntaxing. But I bet you that keymap has something similar, right? So if I want to Vue.js DevTools has crashed. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I should not have pasted that giant ass file in there. Oh, hey, it looks like it pasted though. Look at that. That's a big file. Jesus. I'm just going to discard that. Anywho, yeah, the where I pass that in, I'm not positive. Like I said, I don't think you would pass it into the script itself, unless you were saying like setting like a constant on the window object or something, or on the code mirror object. Do you think that's happening? Because I didn't look at the actual.
I was thinking that might be possible. I'm not sure. I'm trying to look at. So right now I'm looking at the codemirror.net Vim bindings demo, because I was hoping that their demo implementation would have something that would communicate how you might do this, but I have not seen anything yet. So let's see. So if we go to the vim.js file.
Be nice to know like what the property is. So
yeah. Okay. So yeah, at the moment I'm just scrolling through the actual
the code
unminified Vim file that we're loading in.
That is exactly what I'm looking at as well. Some highlighting would be nice. Let me see if I can pop this open in VS Code. Here we go. Let's do some JS.
Oh, interesting.
There we go.
Okay. Okay, I'm actually seeing some interesting stuff in the. I'm not sure if are you sharing something that I'm not seeing, or
I don't know if you can see this file or not.
I cannot. I bet you can't see anything until you write. Maybe. I'm not sure.
Oh, I see. Let me do that then. Here, real fast. I'll just do in the source directory. We'll call this vim.js, and I'll just paste it in there. Boom.
Okay, cool. I see.
Perfect.
Okay, so if we scroll all the way past all their key map definitions, and we keep scrolling, we keep scrolling, we keep scrolling, and we go to, and I need to stop following you. Well, actually,
sorry.
No, I keep following. No, you're good. Keep scrolling, keep scrolling, keep scrolling. Oh, no, too far. So you go
just
up a
past
bit.
the definition. Okay.
Yeah, so that var vim function there, they have a function within there called enter vim mode. And so I'm interested in, you'll see like codemirror.signal, codemirror.
Oh, so you're thinking after it loads, I could potentially just. Excuse me.
Yeah. I'm curious. What is that codemirror?
No. This is like enabling or disabling Vim functionality.
Well, no, I'm wondering if you think the Vim mode change, that's like what that event is signaling. Not that it's because the mode.
Oh, maybe okay. Never mind. Maybe you're. Oh, you're okay. I think you're right actually. So you're saying if we just enter Vim mode and we pass in like. Well, what does Vim mode mean?
That's a good question.
Because both of these disable input is false, disable input true, which means this would be like Vim mode, and this is like insert mode then, right?
Yeah. Well, so you see codemirror.signal Vim mode change mode normal. What tipped me off is so far when Vim is talking about, or not when codemirror is talking about key maps, like what key map mode it's in, it uses default. Here we're talking about normal. So like I think you were calling it edit mode earlier, but
normal mode, yeah.
Yeah. So like what it's saying is that signal is I think emitting that it's entering normal mode. So I'm wondering if either that, literally that signal function it was calling, or one of those other function definitions within that enter Vim mode will do what we want it to do. and it seems like is defined. So if I recall correctly, there is a code mirror so if we look at I don't know if this is correct, but in my browser, I'm looking at the window.codemirror object. And then, then it has a Vim object, which is what I believe is this.
Yeah, that's this. It's an instance of this.
Yeah. So what I'm wondering is if on that fella, we can, exit insert mode, exit visual mode. Interesting. Okay.
Where do you see that?
So window.codemirror.vim.exit. So on that object, I'm seeing functions in my browser console. So I'm seeing these functions, and so I'm wondering if there's a.
Oh, I see what you're doing now. In Octo, you're calling code mirror.vim. Okay.
Yeah.
Insert.
And so I'm just trying to introspect that object and see what we have available to us. And so.
I see exit insert mode.
Yeah. So where's the opposite? Reset Vim global state. That's interesting.
See, this maybe init Vim state thing is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. Later DH forever. Forever banned. Want to be famous? All right. So where's this? Let me look at this maybe init Vim state thing.
All right.
So it takes store instance state in the code mirror object. Here, let me pull up the docs. There's better docs here on, here we go, Vim mode API.
Perfect.
Let me see what the docs say here, because I feel like there's got to be something more useful that we're just missing.
Yeah. See, right now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find.
See, like there's this Vim, there's this set option on Vim. So I'm wondering if set option allows you to set the mode. Maybe.
What I'm looking at right now is everywhere where it does that code mirror.signal the mode change. I want to see what else it's doing around those. Right. Okay, so there's another function called enter insert mode.
No worries, Div. Yeah, you miss out on all the good ones, all the want to become famous posts. Let me try this. Let me check this. Let me call. So we've got the instance in the browser, so it's super easy to test this now. I didn't even think about doing that. So good call. So we've got set option. I'm going to pass in an object. I think it's an object. Let me double check that. We've got, what the hell? Here we go. Name, or no, it's param. It's, okay. So it's name and value. It's ordered parameters, not named. Okay. So we've got option mode. Insert. Oh, here we go. It even gives an error. Unknown option mode. Well, what are the fucking options? I guess I could look that part up. I don't know why I didn't think to do that. Set option. Key map. Vim replace. Key map. Vim insert. Ooh, these are looking right. Set option. Interestingly, there's a code mirror set option on key map for Vim insert. But that wouldn't trigger the what we want. I'm looking for the actual set option like definition.
I'd be interested to see that. I see where the internally, so it has methods for like enter visual mode, enter whatever. And what it does is it puts them into its like key map definitions for, and so like it uses those internally for switching modes when you like, you know, do whatever key binding maps to whatever mode.
Right.
But I'm curious if this will work externally.
Define. Oh, okay. So there's define option. Cool. So define option says file type. PCRE, insert mode, escape keys timeout, Vim mode. False. Define option, Vim mode, false function. If val and key map is unequal to Vim, Vim. Otherwise default. Wait a second, that doesn't seem right.
Is this more concerned with changing the? Well, that's weird though, because it wouldn't be.
Set option Vim mode. True. What? I swear to God it was called Vim. Did I spell it wrong or something? Let's see. Yeah, define option Vim mode. What the shit? Actually, can I just get to the options object itself somehow? Get option, here we go. I don't know why I didn't try just Googling this. Start, so code mirror, start Vim in insert mode. Hey, how's it going? I don't know how to say your name. 3Y gun. Going to sign off for the night. Have a good one, everyone. Yeah, thanks for stopping in again, Rusty. It's been awesome hanging out. Glad you're also excited about the Vim plugin here.
That top post seems relevant.
Yeah, I hadn't had a chance to click it yet, but I don't know why I didn't Google it. Like, of course. Oh my God, don't tell me it's like.
Hey, it's always good to learn a little something about your dependencies, right?
Oh man,
how they work
the amount of time I've spent reading through code mirror code. The code mirror code base is not clean, by the way. I don't know if you're. I haven't looked at Vim yet, but the code base itself is pretty rough. But
it is. I was trying not to bring this up, but apparently it is actively unmaintained. And
oh yeah,
an owner.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thygun. Nice. Hey, David. See, I thought that was you, and I even recognized the like username and put it together, but I wasn't 100% sure. So, thanks for stopping in. That's really awesome that you're able to stop by. Yeah, no worries if you haven't tried the app. I definitely recommend it. I absolutely love writing in it now. It's finally getting to a state where I actually enjoy writing in it, and it's actively getting better, as you can see. Well, you know, if we were making progress, it would be actively getting better. But if you look at it over the long span of time, it's definitely getting better. Oh my God, is there a key map Vim insert? Oh no, never mind. Looks like that fix still works. I tried. Okay, I need to read before I like get too excited. This person edited Vim.js? No. So they added a function called enter Vim mode. How can I change to Vim mode on an existing CodeMirror instance? So I could always override functionality. I've actually had to do that before without modifying the file. I say I can. I probably can. Yeah, it actually only has a dark mode at the moment. Its light mode is on the roadmap. I just haven't spent the time yet working on it. So it will happen. It will absolutely happen. Just, you know, one thing at a time. So add the following line at the end of the enter Vim mode function in Vim. So let me look at that function.
Unfortunate. It's kind of unfortunate because it does have these functions. It just doesn't make them public.
Right. Yep. Oh, that's always how it goes, man. The amount of time I've done exactly this, where I'm just like reading through the code, trying to figure out what the hell is like going on, and trying to override like basic normal functionality. See, I'm wondering about these. Like, this is all code that I could just call myself.
Right.
Not that I'm saying I should, I'm just saying that I could. Don't give into the light mode, heathens. I want it to be, you know, I want it to be accessible to anyone. So some people like light mode. I don't necessarily get it. But, you know, might as well have both offerings to appease everyone else. The cool part that I do like, though, that I will work on once there is a light mode, is the implementation of system theme detection, where it'll automatically do darker light based on your OS configuration. That's going to be a fun little piece to work on.
It's actually super like crazy easy. It's
yeah,
really
it is. It's so easy, but it's just the effect that's really fun. It's like having it actually happen when I change my OS settings and watching it happen in real life, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Insert at in place. Enter insert mode. Wait, what is actions? What the hell is actions? Command.action. Define action, and then actions. Process action. Is that a function? Can I call process action? No, that's under command dispatcher. This was 3 years later. Holy cow. Enter insert actions dot enter. Oh, they did it a little bit differently. They call actions dot enter. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it's just accessing a hash. Enter insert mode. Insert at in place. cm dot state dot vim. Oh, what is this? There's a GitHub. See, I was trying set option, but I wasn't sure like what the hell. Because there's this call. Let me find it. There's only 27 instances. Set option Vim. So it's this one. cm.set option key map Vim replace and Vim insert. So I felt like maybe that was happening behind the scenes. It's using these two options, and then it's signaling these events. That's got to be it, right? So,
well, let's try it.
Yeah.
Although this does raise a question. So we need to store the last, like we have to understand like the state we're leaving. I guess we can just inspect the CodeMirror object before we leave, I suppose, and just pass that forward.
Yes. Oh, right. Because yeah, we need to know which mode it's in, right? Yeah, we definitely don't want to set it to insert 100% of the time. Let's give this a shot, though. If we can at least get it to work one way, I feel like getting it to work the other way is going to be not too bad. Especially because if they're not in insert mode, then we can just leave them in the normal mode. That's the default already. So, okay, let's try this. So, what was that? Set option that's called on the CM instance. So the code mirror instance is, oh, I have access. We already have access in the editor. It's just this dot, excuse me, this dot editor, right? I think that's where I store it. Let me double check. Yeah, this dot editor equals instance. So, so actually, funny enough though, the place where we pull this, or where we, the place where this lookup is going to happen is not in Markdown Editor. So I actually built Markdown Editor to be a drop-in sort of like inline Markdown rendering component that I plan eventually to pull out into its own library. So Octo Editor is actually going to be its own thing where you can just essentially replace any text area with an inline rendered Markdown area that looks like Octo, I guess. Minimal theming though. But essentially just, you know, this piece, the writing piece, and you can drop it onto any website with just one script. That's the idea, to give you this inline rendering functionality. And so Markdown Editor itself actually is supposed to be something that's pretty standalone and isolated, although now we're already kind of polluting it with some store state calls and things like that. I might have to refactor those back out. But the editor is where all of this stuff is actually supposed to happen. For now, though, let's just see if we can get it working. So, on ready. Let's see. On. Do I want to do on ready? Where do I want to do this? I just want to test it out to see if it works. I'm not even going to worry about the props passing yet. Yeah, on ready is the place because that's where we call set cursor. So
you could, if you wanted to test like the set option. I mean, you could literally test it on the instant, like without navigating. You could just test it on the Markdown Editor. Immediately, right?
Immediately. Oh, you mean from the browser? Probably. I would think so, right? But I'm going to... I don't know how to access the instance from there. Because I don't know... It's not the code mirror namespace. It's an actual instance of the editor, because you can technically have multiple instances. So I'd have to probably set that on the window object or something. But I already have it set up, so I'm just going to see what happens, you know?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Cannot read property attach of undefined... Oh, whoops. We should actually only do this when... Excuse me. So it's running too early. It's the same issue that we had before. So I guess we'll do it right here. Just for now, like I said, just for testing purposes, so. Oops. Oh, geez. Hitting all kinds of incorrect keys over here. And I think this might have to be like lowercase code mirror. Signal is not a function. Well, let's leave that out for now because I'm not even using that event listener. Doesn't appear to be working. Why is this thing? I don't know what that's doing, but this.editor.set option key map Vim insert. I feel like this is not right.
It does. The internal functions do quite a few things. They do this. They do, or well, I should say, if we go back to Vim.js, they do call set option.
Right, yeah, that's what I was seeing.
But they also do a few other things. So let's see. Let's find enter insert mode. So there's an enter insert mode function.
Right.
The very first thing it does is checks option read only, returns on whatever Vim object it's being given. It's setting insert mode true, which I wonder. Then it's going through and okay.
So we can find out where
setting all
that's
this internal state.
It's being passed Vim from.
It's interesting. It's calculating like it looks like where. Oh yeah, if it's okay, if it was visual
it's
mode
based on specific key bindings. It's just entering insert mode here.
Right.
Oh yeah, this is that same call that's being done, or that they recommended editing the file with, actually. So enter insert mode is exactly what they recommended in that code mirror forum that I was looking at right here. Which makes sense, right? Like that totally does make sense that works. I was more so hoping though there's a way that we can do it without having to override functionality or something similar. Let me try one more thing just to give us a little more access here. Which file am I in? Here we go. On ready, I'm going to say I'm going to give us access to the instance to try some things out. So I'm going to say window dot octo editor equals this dot editor, and then in the browser here, I should be able to say octo editor dot set option. First of all right, I'm in edit mode here. Key map. I can see what the result of this call is now. Vim insert. Nothing. Undefined. Hey, oh, it worked though. I'm in insert mode, so that totally worked. Okay, now the question is, why didn't it work where I put it in this code base?
Oh,
Because this has to happen.
Well, you said it in the load.
I know why. Because this is being called, and then the editor is being refreshed because of the change to state. That's why. Okay, so really what I need to say is on editor ready. So I don't. Well, I should probably do that part too, but let me just. I'll bring both of them for now. So what I need to say is on ready. Where are we at? Whoops. There we go. And you say if this dot what is it? This dot settings dot key map is equal to Vim. Oops. And this dot store dot state dot Vim loaded. Then do the thing. Let's see if that works at least. Of course not. It'd be too easy. Let me do it after the set cursor call too, just to make sure we've done all the things we can do. Still seems like it's just happening too early. It obviously works when I do it directly now. Like now I know that's a thing. So, excuse me. Get myself some more water. This doesn't help if I turn away if my mic is attached to my head. Oh man. So this dot settings dot keymap is equal to Vim. This dot source date Vim loaded. Is it because by setting this mode, it also causes the editor to reset? I mean, that doesn't make sense because that would be the last thing set, I would imagine. So this dot settings dot. Maybe I should just say if this dot keymap is equal to Vim. Yeah.
I do have to wonder that, like, not that, like, if we can figure it out, great. But I am wondering if this is adding, as much as I want Vim support in Octo, I'm wondering how much complexity we're adding to support this specific case.
Yeah, that's a fair question. Let's go ahead and, I mean, it's really not much though if you think about it. Like if you look at the diff here that we've made changes for, like
no, yeah, it's not too crazy. I am trying to be what's the word? Cognizant that I am not the official maintainer.
Sure, yeah, that's fair. Oh yeah, I wonder if that actually was even a problem now that we I'm curious now if that actually is even causing any issues. I might be able to revert that change to escape. Because I don't think I was calling prevent default or anything with the bind global. I could have been though, I don't know, I'll have to double check that. So it might have worked fine without those changes. So I'm still like on this thing, like why, let's think. Why is this happening? So late? Or why is this like being a giant pain? Oh, is it just not being called? Oh. I might have made an incorrect assumption. I might have assumed that onReady gets called after the options get updated. But now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure I saw in the view code mirror docs that it actually has like an option change. Yep, option change event. I'm using the wrong event. So, I think that's what we want to use. Holy shit. So I bet that this just isn't even being called after the key map is updated to Vim. So let's try that. Let's try a new one. On option change. Oops. Oops. There we go. And that's going to be at option change, oops, equals on option change. Perfect. If this does it, I'm going to be so happy. And also upset at myself for not reading the docs better. Anytime I run into problems like this, where I could have just read the docs more thoroughly. I always think of Matt Crocco.
Oh.
Because
he was a mastermind.
anytime I would ask him how he figured out how to do something, his answer was always, "Oh, I read the docs." And I'm like, "Oh, why didn't I think of that? Why am I the way I am?"
See, I always feel like there's someone out there though who's always like the superior version. Like, there's always going to be someone who's like better at somehow reading the docs than you are. Like, there's like a greater Matt Crocco out there who's even crazier at reading docs.
Oh, I love it. But yeah, that's what it always just pops in my head now. Ever since like working with them, that's what I think of whenever I like go back and read the docs, and I'm like, oh, there was a really easy way to do this. I just didn't read. I just stopped reading. That's what it comes down to, right? So let's try this. If this works, I'm gonna be so happy. Oh my god, it worked. Son of a bitch. Okay, well, we did it, so that's good. So really, we need to keep track of a couple of things. We need to only do this on initial load, and only if the initial value is passed, and only if it wasn't in normal mode. Okay, that actually, I think I mean, don't take my word for it. I've been wrong many a times, but I think I might know how to do this part. I wonder why this code mirror.signal call didn't work. I'll come back to that part, but so we already started defining the initial prop. What were you saying?
Oh, I was saying maybe it only the signal only emits the event, so it really doesn't do anything itself.
No, it was saying it wouldn't even let me. Yeah, I don't think it's going to do anything except for emit that event, but I do want to do that in case we ever want to listen to it later. But I couldn't even call .signal though; it was actually failing. So that's the part.
Yeah, I don't. It might be private. Like they might not have exposed it.
Are you on view 2 then? I am on view 2. So view 3 is out, but the only reason I haven't updated to view 3 is because I'm actually waiting. I've been planning to migrate to use Nuxt.js for a couple of reasons. One is because I feel like it actually serves a better project structure, very similar to what I've already done here actually. And I use pretty much all of the features already that Nuxt.js kind of wraps into a nice module. But also Nuxt.js has Tailwind support, like, integrated really well, and I'd like to migrate to Tailwind. So I am on view 2. The only reason I have not upgraded is because I want to migrate to Nuxt.js, and Nuxt does not yet have Nuxt 3, which will encapsulate view 3. So it will happen, but I am putting it off so that I don't have to do like multiple migrations. That said, at some point I plan on doing some more reading into the changes between view 2 and view 3, and I might even just decide to do it beforehand, depending on how long Nuxt is going to take. So the current plan though is to wait, but we shall see. Okay, so the signaling I can come back to. We've got initial cursor, initial Vim mode, default or Vim. Wait. Yeah, okay. Wait, no. I don't want default or Vim. I just realized.
Are you trying to model? Yeah, I was going to ask. Are you trying to model your modes of operation in terms of whether or not it's in Vim mode at all, or are you trying to model?
No, this is different. This is
normal, visual.
Normal, or I'll just do normal or insert. Or is there another one? Is there visual? And
there's visual, yeah.
Visual. Okay. Oh god, that means we have to handle even more cases. That's alright. So, great, now it's all out of order. Okay, so, that's fine. We know how to pass it in. Mainly backer anymore, so I only partially know Nuxt versus regular view stuff. Yeah, Oh, backend. I just got that actually after like reading it. I feel that I actually do. Well, my new company I work for, I actually do quite a bit of front end, but I do a lot of front end in React, not Vue, unfortunately. I mean, React's not bad. It definitely could be way worse. So I'm happy with that. But I do a healthy mix of front end and back end. My previous employer, I was primarily a back end developer. But nonetheless, I only get to work with Vue when I work on my own things, like Octo. But thankfully, Octo has helped me learn a lot more about Vue. Okay, so we need to pull the mode from the editor before the redirect happens, right?
Yes. You also, do you want to keep that default as it is now?
Oh my god,
or do
no.
you want to?
Normal, probably.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we also need to have some data to keep track of was Vim, what do I even want to call this? It's essentially like another memoization like tracker. So I just want to say like, was it run, right? Let's say is initial Vim mode set. I guess that's long and I don't know, but yeah, we'll go ahead and just do that. And then when we run it, we'll make sure that it'll run on the option change like we're doing, and then we'll update this, and it'll only run when that's not updated. So that way it only runs one time per editor instance, which is what we want. So I guess I'll go ahead and update that. And then we can look into figuring out how to get the mode, which is, I bet if I use set option, there's a get option, right? So our main app is Angular 1. It's so bad compared to React or Vue, but still better than CoffeeScript. Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Angular 1 is a beast, that's for sure. So I can't complain. Like, our React code base is massive, and it uses very different styles depending on which namespaces you're in. But it is React though, so you know, like I can't complain. I'm definitely happy with it. It's a step up from the very tightly coupled Rails rendered stuff I was working with previously.
Come on, guys. Stimulus JS? Come on, it's not bad. It's fine.
Stimulus. Actually, we have some Stimulus JS, I believe.
I'm kind of the.
There was like an experiment with it that failed, and so there's a small portion of the code base that. Did you say "damn it"? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of a holdout where I'm still of the opinion that you can get a lot done with server-side rendered, like traditional server interpolated templates, and then JavaScript sprinkles, as I call them. But I'm a dying breed apparently, so.
Yeah, get out of here. All right, so I got, oh Jesus, I keep doing this click drag thing. I just do it. I don't know why. I just like to move my cursor around a lot when I'm using it. Oh my God, what did I do? No, I'm not used to VS Code at all. It does so many weird things that, what the fuck just happened? Okay.
You can blame it on me or live share if you need another scapegoat.
No, I just blame VS Code. I'm just not used to it. It does a lot. It's a lot closer to an IDE than Atom, that's for sure. And so it does all this stuff for me that I'm not used to. I'm not used to any pop-ups or prompts on anything I type. So a little weird, but.
Huh. I had my Atom set up back in the day with some IntelliSense. Not a lot, but a little bit.
I lied. I do get a little bit of IntelliSense, but not like, I don't know, not to this level. That's for sure.
Yeah.
This level is definitely a bit more. Okay, so I added this check now, so it should only run one time, which is what we want, of course. So we've got our sort of memoization helper. Only if it's passed in The pass in should only happen on redirect, and so this part is actually pretty simple. So this happens in the editor. Oh my god, I'm not going to remember that shortcut because I just use Atom so often. Okay. Oh, is that because I'm not passing key in? Is it like yelling at me now because I'm not doing things the right way? I knew it.
Oh, interesting. Does it have the same, does it get mad about the same, what is it in React? Like if you don't properly key every like entry in an item list?
Yeah. Yep, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, that's interesting. I should probably fix that, but that's a pretty minor. I'm not too worried. I'll come back to that. But that's something that I don't see that in Atom. Like it doesn't pop up little red line saying you did this wrong, because it only uses Vue as a syntax highlighter. It doesn't actually like tell me, you know, whether or not I'm following semantics. So that's actually I do like that actually, because then I'm just like, oh yeah, I should definitely be doing it the right way. But
yeah,
you know.
That's actually coming from, I think, the Vueter, like that's that extension you pulled in probably for Vue support.
Yeah.
It runs a full like Vue language server and everything. It's yeah, definitely intense.
So initial Vim mode is going to be, I guess how do I check? So damn, where'd all my stuff go? So editor, there's get option key map probably. So let's try that in the browser first. Window dot, oh no, I deleted my helper, so excuse me, jeez. Let me go back and add that again while I'm doing all of this debugging. It's definitely the right way. Window dot editor equals this dot editor. So window dot editor dot get option key map Vim. Awesome. That's. What about if I go? How about now? Oh, it does actually change the key map to Vim insert. Nice. Okay, so I can totally use that then. So if get option key map is equal to Vim insert, then do insert. Perfect. So really what I need is I need a map for these. So
got a little case statement, I guess.
I guess I'll call it modes. Oh yeah, that's true. That's probably even better. Well, if I do a case statement, then I have to use a var on each of the variables. Yeah, I'll just do that. Okay, so switch this dot oh wait, I can call this dot editor here as well. Oh, I guess I mount it inside the editor itself too. Okay, perfect. So this dot editor dot get option key map case Vim case Vim insert default whatever. So here var.
When you change back from insert to normal mode, does it just set it to Vim or?
Yeah, I guess it must, right?
Interesting.
Which makes sense. That's the default. So
yeah.
Because these are not an exact like one-to-one mapping with what we're used to. Actually, yeah. Now I'm wondering if I should just be passing these along as the initial value rather than passing the whole normal insert visual. The problem I have with Rails views and Java free marker templates is when you want some dynamic stuff, thinking about how you load and filter the data gets way more complicated than in React, Redux, or Vue world, at least for an acceptable templated solution. Yeah, I mean, it's limiting, right? Like, even with the best implementations of like server-side rendering, you are limited because you are tied. There is a coupling to the server, and that also means there's a coupling to server connectivity, and there's just like a number of factors that just are not, there's a number of factors that can really hold you back, depending on what exactly you're trying to do. Everything seems to get very custom with server-rendered HTML when you want JavaScript-based dynamic changes, although it's very nice for the initial render. Yeah, exactly, right? Like, there's trade-offs, for sure. There's definitely trade-offs. I personally, in the modern world, am way more of a fan of, heavier clients. Like, I mean, we live in a world where most of the people now can handle that pretty well. And, like, even a heavy client doesn't necessarily even mean that it has to be like super bloated. It just means that the client handles more responsibility. But the benefits are so huge. Like with Octo, take Octo for an example, right? Octo is a web app, but when you load Octo the first time, it caches all the assets that are necessary. And so, like, after you visited it one time, you can come back here with no internet connectivity and use the entire app without any internet connection, like as a web app. And to me, I still just love that. I think that's crazy that that is possible now, because I remember when that was so far from possible. It wasn't even a thought of being able to like build an offline website. What? So it's just amazing, and I love it.
Yeah, and take my opinion with a grain of salt, where it's like, primarily what I've worked on is really complex, B2B software for a lot of my career. And in all of those cases, every time we spun up some really complicated front-end spot, it was almost always overkill for what we were doing.
Yeah, and it often can be, for sure. I'm not saying that you should build out the whole like giant Nuxt.js or like Vue, Vuex, Vue Router, like all those things. But a small library for HTML rendering, and a big one is code organization, can go like a really long way. Right. And that's what I think is really big. It's like, and what you gain there is, it is a little bit more setup time, which is always the trade-off, right? In the enterprise world, setup, spending time now for a better experience later is just something that's always pushed aside. Not always, but often pushed aside. Because it's all about what can we do right now, how quickly can we do the thing, which is fine, totally makes sense, we got to make money. But it's unfortunate because like often the cost is greater when you push it off to down the road than it would have been looking back. And especially when you work for a company that's already successful. That's where I hate to see it. It's one thing when you're a startup and you're just trying to establish some sort of like value prop at all. But when you're already an established company and you're in a stable space, that's the time you need to start shifting gears and start thinking ahead a little bit more. So, right. Not that obviously, again, like it's all just like balancing that idea of maintaining your market advantage, but there's always trade-offs.
For sure. I mean, and I should say, like, any code base I've worked in that's had, like, for example, like, they actually brought in a state manager and followed like a flux pattern, for example, in their front-end components. Like, that is like by far the most understandable like data flow. For example, with your work here, like using Vuex and like having to store like, it's very nice to you can easily both set state in your application and have it reflected everywhere, as well as like communicate state changes, and that's like so valuable. So I mean, there are tons of upsides, and I should say I'm not dismissive of the tools themselves, because they solve problems that we definitely have and allow us to do really cool stuff like Octo.
Right.
I just think that sometimes people treat them like a hammer, where it's like, I'm going to need this.
And that is 100% true. 100% true. And I think that's why I like wanted to make that clarification at the end there, right? Like when you're already established and you can afford the luxury of thinking a bit ahead, like then it's awesome. But when you're building a project from the ground up, like it doesn't always make sense to just bring in the, that level of like some sort of like architectural solution. But
yeah, for what it's worth, my current employer, we actually did a spike of every single. Essentially, they had a monolith with a significant amount of backbone JS. So, that kind of era, and so they were looking at what they wanted to replace all their backbone with gradually. And so they actually spiked out, and this was fairly late. Like this was, I want to say, like 2018. They were doing this, and so they spiked out with every major component-based front-end framework, like what they wanted the future to look like. And they did these like really long, like not like people doing different projects in like these different languages, like all working on the same thing and like trying each component library and like writing like really in-depth like reports about what they liked and disliked, and like what they felt like was like, were they bike shedding or were they confused about like community idioms, and what is idiomatic like React, or what is idiomatic Vue, etc.
Right.
And so they actually went with Vue because they felt like they did the least amount of bike shedding and like yak shaving with Vue. They said they felt productive very quickly.
I fucking love that, because that is exactly how I see it as well. Like I can very confidently say that Vue is my favorite front-end framework that I have used, and I've used quite a few of them. I have used Angular a bit. I've used Angular the least out of all of them. I've used React quite a bit, and I'm using React now for work, and then I've used Vue quite a bit on multiple projects, and it has by far been my favorite. Like it's not even a contest. Like don't get me wrong, like I'd be happy to work in React as I am now, but Vue, the experience is just so much better in my opinion. And it really helps you. You don't write like nearly as much code, like, which is a big part of it. And sorry, I could just go on, but
oh no, you're good. I will say that React hooks really did improve my opinion of like React. Like I felt like I got a chance to work with a code base that was just using the new hooks based kind of layout, and that was pretty nice. Like
the hooks aren't bad, and like we've been doing that too. Actually, we've been migrating to use so contexts for reducers, and then using hooks, functional components and hooks, and like it is it's way nicer. Like don't get me wrong, but I still just have way more boilerplate. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
The fact that if I want to establish a state object, I have to define like I have to define the hook, and that's the least of the issues. But like the point is, it is getting better. I think that React is heading in a better direction. I mean, they kind of have to, right? If they want to keep up.
For sure.
And I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
Like I'm not complaining at all about what I'm doing now, especially compared to what I was doing before, like I said. So I've just always I'm definitely one to explore like modern practices and technologies, and I've been using Vue now for like I don't know exactly how long, since the earlier stages of it, that's for sure. I mean, if you remember when we worked in pharmacy together, I was trying to get us to use it to build that first app. Actually, I built a small app using Vue there. That's right. So a little while, at least a few years.
For what it's worth, I voted with you. I said let's use Vue when we had our big shakedown.
There were so many people that after the app was built that were like, I didn't know what React was. I just knew that it was around more, but this was not fun. I feel like we should have done something else.
Yeah, that kind of sucked because it was just like the decision was basically made on, it was a popularity contest.
Yeah, that was exactly it. There was no... So what you mentioned about actually going in and breaking down the framework and like comparing them and kind of writing up like your own experience, that didn't happen at all, right? Like, no, we just literally had a spreadsheet essentially of like, here are the frameworks, pick one. Pick which one sounds good.
In their defense, like, it's not a bad thing to like pick. It's like, well, this is, has the largest community, and to go after that. I mean, there's a logic to that. It's just, it's unfortunate.
No, there absolutely is. Like, I'm not trying to say that the way they went about it was wrong. I'm trying to say the way that I went about presenting it was wrong. because that was
No,
my
I don't think you
idea to act. I mean, like I don't know if it was my idea, but I definitely pushed hard on saying, hey, we should at least like consider these other things.
No, you were definitely the Vue salesman. I think there was also the conversation that that David and I are talking about. Essentially, we had an opportunity to write a greenfield application, sort of. In the idea was it was going to be a fairly complex front end, and so we had the opportunity to. There was no official front end framework up to that point, so there was kind of this opportunity to set what would be the framework going forward. And React 1, David was a proponent of Vue. I agreed with him. I voted for Vue. I think what also sold it was that the team that maintained the product that was kind of before, what we were greenfielding was the second iteration of this previous product, and that was written in React. So I think they also swayed it in favor of React, just because it's also all the existing code that we're going to be basing things off of is written in React, which in retrospect, I do not think was a good reason.
Yeah.
I don't know if we wanted to really be trying to pull anything from that code base, but hey.
It's all right. So I think I definitely messed something up here. I don't know if it's because I have a default here. Let's just try this. Let's do initial Vim mode is a string, and we either do initial Vim mode or this dot key map. Oh god, let's see what happens. So I was running into an issue where I got into insert mode. Okay, now, hey, okay, that was almost correct. What did I just do? Oh, I accidentally did a shortcut to open issues. And yeah, gaming, I posted in chat way after you posted your comment, but kind of did it. We got a good chunk of it working, but we're definitely still dealing with some of the side effects that are happening.
We got it, and then we got really obsessed with a very specific nuance to it.
I mean, I think it's a fairly important nuance.
Well, it's kind of interesting, right? So normally, if you're in Vim and you're using native Vim panes and stuff like that, or buffers, and you're navigating between them, you'd have a lot of difficulty switching modes without switching it back to normal mode first, because most if I wanted to switch to my buffer 0 and I have that bound to I hit 0 or 1 or 2, it's going to enter. If I'm in insert mode, it's going to hit enter 1, 2, 3. So
right.
It's kind of, it's interesting in that this makes sense as a bug, but also it's something that in the original implementation, if you will, that we're emulating wouldn't be normal from a workflow standpoint.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
Anyway, I just find that interesting. That's me musing about the when you start emulating things in a different context, how suddenly you have these different problems.
It is nice being able to use this, though. I'm probably going to end up switching to Vim mode for some of my document writing.
It's just really useful, being able to just snap to the end of your line, to hit O and open a new line,
So this is weird. So I kind of have it. Working. Let me try this. Console.log. This dot initial Vim mode. Let's try that. Oh, wait, what? No, let's go back here. Undefined. Oh, wait, what? Oh, is it because I'm not? Wait, no. What? Sorry.
Is initial Vim mode set?
Markdown editor, initial cursor, this dot initial cursor. I thought it was because I'm passing it in the thing. Right here. Initial Vim mode is this dot edit. Yeah, let's check this. Maybe this is for some reason returning something weird. H Vim insert. No, it's right. See, that's correct. And the character position is correct now, so we fixed that part. Well, kind of. It's correct if I'm in insert mode, not if I'm in not insert mode. Actually, yeah, that's kind of weird, but so it is being passed, but hang on. So markdown editor, it's a string. That looks good. It's a prop. My router is set up. Let me just pull that up to be. God, my router is set up to convert params to props, I believe, for the editor. Where am I going? Documents. Not new. It's documents ID. Here we go. Props true. Yeah. So all params get converted to props. Yes, I am still in the Ohio area. Good old Columbus. Night and Best, thanks for the chat and hope the holidays go well next week despite the rough year. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Have a good evening yourself and, you know, have a good upcoming weekend as well. Oh, man, this is rough.
Well, we're very close. I feel confident we'll get there.
Yeah, we are super close, which is nice.
Yeah, it is. We are about to hit 11.
Yeah,
is there anything we want to get like cleaned up and kind of committed, and then we can take it from there, or?
Yeah, so I'm probably going to time box this for like another 15 minutes ish, or so, maybe 11, 15, we'll say. And then at that point, I would like to get it committed and, you know, do the whole goodbyes and all of that, because I don't want to be up too late. I do have to be up early-ish for work, so. But regardless of how far we get, I mean, because this is so close, I mean, we might do it async, but if we don't do it async, I'd also be down to pair up again, either sometime this week or next week, depending on your availability. So let's just see where we get, though. But I am going to time box it. I'm going to check back in to do a status check, I guess, at like 11:15, which gives us about 20 minutes.
Okay.
So I think, I mean, this should be working properly, I believe. Actually, yeah, and I already, didn't I already log that? Or no, I didn't log it. But what I can do is this. I can open up View. Sad file. Uh-oh, what just happened? Oh, new tab. Why is View sad filing? Is that from what I did before? Is it still crashed? How do I restart that? Can I do that?
Are you referring to your, oh.
No, View is like crashed. What the hell? Reload, there we go. Okay, it's good. I think it was from that time I dropped that giant file in. I don't think View could handle it. I think it was too large. Probably gave it some sort of like out of memory error and then the extension crashed.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is weird. Great, now it's still not. If I turn it off and then turn it back on. Have you tried turning it off and on again? Reset the page, open this up. Do we have, hey, it's back. Okay, awesome. So, what was I gonna, I don't even remember what I was doing. I wanted to see the editor, no, markdown editor. I wanted to see the props. Okay, so initial Vim mode is undefined, but if I do a new document and say H Oh, markdown editor, right. Initial Vim mode is undefined, so it's not getting passed. What the hell? Well, isn't that interesting? Did I, like, spell it wrong? Did I, like... Because, like, right here, it gets logged... Well, let's double check that. Yeah, it gets logged correctly. Like, what... Do you see something here? Like, what the hell did I do that's making it not get passed through?
I'm trying to do a search.
Did I do something weird again where I accidentally opened a file that's in a different project? No, this says Austen. That says Austen.
I'm still here. I'm still here.
No, I know that, but before it was like opening files in a different project. I just want to make sure it wasn't doing that still.
Oh, I see.
Because like initial cursor's getting passed. Look. Well, maybe, or I guess kind of look. If you look at if you have View DevTools, initial cursor's getting passed. It's an object with character 1, line 0. The fuck? Is it my instance of editor is like out of date or something? I'm just so confused. Like,
wait, hold on. Where?
well, no, because it's getting logged. I mean, I just had it right here. I just had this log statement. It's getting logged as Vim mode. Let me just do that. And then if I do a new document, refresh the page, go to my console, insert, A, right? Vim mode, Vim insert. But like it gets converted to undefined somehow. That's fucking weird. Wait a second. Oh, wait, no. Yeah, what's happening? Wait, is this something where I'm not like passing a prop I need to be passing? Where's Markdown Editor? Oh my god, it totally is. Dude, I swear. Initial Vim mode equals initial Vim mode. Here's the deal. When I do this route redirection, this abstraction layer that I created just to be able to keep Markdown Editor as its own thing has bitten me more than once, but maybe it'll start biting me less. So the deal is, the route that's actually getting the props injected into is the editor itself, not Markdown Editor. I was skipping a stage. So when we do that route push, it's actually reloading this same component, which means there's an initial Vim mode defined here, or sorry, an initial cursor defined here, and we need to do the same thing. Initial Vim mode. I'm just going to do the shorthand here, so string. And I bet you that'll do it. Well, bet you I'm wrong. Why is this? Get out of here. I mean, now it should be working. Now I'm really confused because let's look at initial cursor and see what's happening. We've got pushes there, initial cursor, initial Vim. Is it just because I didn't reload? Alright. Insert. H. Markdown Editor. It's undefined still. Jesus. Alright, something weird. Wait, is it defined on the editor, though, actually? That's important. It's not. I didn't look at the editor's props. Let's see if those are being routed. Or yes, I did. That's where it says props true, so it should be getting passed.
Should have been mode string.
So like if I go into the editor and I search initial cursor in the whole project, it's only used in 2 places, right? It's used in Markdown editor and the editor. It's passed into... Wait, why are there 2 of these? That's weird that it's showing 2 lines. Those are both the same line, I think. Yeah, they are.
Oh, it's because it matches twice. Initial cursor the first time. It's like a global.
Yeah, the search result view in this app I do not like nearly as much as Atom's.
I think there's some way to disable that, but yeah.
Okay, so just the way that it's displayed, I mean, in this little side pane. Atom takes a whole tab open, which is a little easier to read because you can see the whole lines.
You can expand it, like, if you want, but...
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, like, if you just drag that bar out.
Oh, right, but then I have to, like, drag it back and forth because that expands the whole tree view. So, initial Vim mode. What is happening? All right. Let me try. Let me try at least doing like a default value.
I'd assume you'd want it normal, right? If you want to mirror or...
No, so I actually changed it. This is a little different. So I'm actually... Now it's working. And now it's working there. So it's just the route redirection is not passing it like it's supposed to be. So why the hell is that happening? That's super odd. So router, I can pass ID and then all props. But in the editor, when I call route.push, duplicate document, okay. And then, wait, am I losing my mind? Did I undo the line? Did I delete it? Jesus Christ. Well, that could be our problem. I must have deleted it right when I actually fixed the prop pass.
You know, I swear I've done that, like exactly what you're dealing with, like right now, like.
Oh my God.
Today. Like this.
What the fuck did I just do? One sec. Okay, now I need to undo what I just did with the default, just to make sure.
Here, I gotcha. You just want it to be a string.
Yeah.
Default.
Yeah, thank you. Can I not save the file? Do you have to save it? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you have to save it. That's weird. It wouldn't let me save it. Oh my God. Wait, no. No, it didn't work. Damn it. This worked though. Look, it got the right one. Now it's just not setting it like it's supposed to be, that's a step forward. So I'm not upset about that.
I didn't mess up this prop type signature, did I?
Prop type signature. What, over here?
Just the props.
I mean, it looks like it's passing correctly now, not just to the editor, but also to Markdown editor. So it's making it all the way in. Oh, is initial Vim mode set is false though, so it's actually not catching the load of, that should be true. Oh, because Jesus Christ. Because now it's looking explicitly for Vim instead of Vim insert. Okay, we're getting there, slowly. Slowish. See? It's looking for is that not right? Here, let's log some things right here.
Set, if it's equal to Vim, it does some stuff.
I feel like that's got to be the issue, because like I don't know what else. Oh, console is what I'm looking for. Keymap, Vim. No, keymap is Vim the whole time. Okay, that makes sense. That's coming from our settings object. So editor set option keymap this.initial Vim mode or this.keymap. So why? I guess I can probably fix that portion now. Why is that not working now? We had this working. Did I already do this part too? Initial. Uh-oh. On paste attach of. What did I break? Now we're getting that like load order error that we had before. Cannot read property attach of undefined. Initial is undefined. Oh, this dot keymap. How is this dot keymap undefined? Let's find out. This should never be undefined. What the hell?
It's not editor get option keymap. Let's see here.
Is keymap undefined? No, initial is undefined. So this dot initial Vim mode is undefined. What? Seriously, we're getting that again? Oh, nope. Sorry, that does need to have the. I got rid of the or. This dot keymap, and that does have to be there because this is not always passed. Like on initial page load, it's not passed because there's nothing to pass. Jesus. Okay, it doesn't help when I'm like breaking my own stuff. Now we have values, but it's still erroring out. Why is that? Oh, I bet I wonder if this is also getting set to undefined. Let me. Because this is. Okay. Shit, I need to log these separately. I put the or in the wrong place. I put it in the console log. Holy heck. Okay. So, still the same problem, but we're at least getting a little bit closer now. Oops. Hi again. Hi, Hannah. Welcome back. Okay, so initial Vim mode is Vim insert. That seems right. Is initial Vim mode set is false. Again, that seems really strange because at this point it should have run this code. Oh, I kind of know what's happening here. Okay, so this is actually running too soon. Right? Because this runs, I know it does because of the log statements, but when we switch, let's find out. Let's look at the console again. So if I clear the console and I go into insert mode, we see a change here. And I type A. We see, yep, so we see the log statement from the editor component, but there's nothing from markdown editor. Because markdown editor has already done its thing. It's already run through this once. Whoops. Jesus. Right?
I'm processing this.
So I'm missing one thing, which is this. If it's not set, and I guess it's actually better order would be like this. So if there is a value and it's not set, and it's Vim, then we do this. It's running through this early, and it's just setting it to default, because it's not going to be set. The first time it runs, it's not set. And when settings loads, it's Vim. And so before our component redirects, that's totally it. I heard or and thought you were on Minecraft. I mean, we could build some pretty cool stuff in Minecraft with redstone, if you want to talk about like bitwise operations.
You know, I had a friend who he did one of those. He like built digital clocks and stuff like that, and out of my redstone in Minecraft, and it was always very funny, like watching the RAM like literally cycle in this tiny like little clock.
That is awesome. Uh-oh, what happened? Now it's still failing on me. Oh shit, where did I lost my spot. Here we go. So why are we failing now? Let's reload the page here. New document. Reload again. Insert mode. Keymap Vim. I don't see anything for initial, so I'm gonna say H. And initial is never called. That means this is never. Oh, because this is only on option change. All right, this is it's that time. I think my brain is just starting to shut down. I think so. I don't think option change is being called now. Now I'm thinking that the because originally we were using option change to set the. We want to use this editor set option to set the key map. When the key map changes, that's actually, man, we actually need two places to do this. So I'm thinking now we want this in both, not exactly the same thing in both places, but I'm thinking we need something like right here.
Okay.
Hey. Oh. Except my keys aren't working now. What the hell? It almost worked. H. It looks like it's still in insert mode, but it's not. My thing is like all messed up.
It's interesting because I feel like a lot of the behavior, again, like the behavior you see in your copy of Octo, doesn't behave the way mine does.
Oh God, don't tell me that again.
Now I'm like, am I secretly running like Octo like locally and I don't even realize it, and it's like somehow overriding your.
Oh Jesus Christ!
That is not what's happening.
Okay, that's good. Is there a way to see? Yeah, options. No, not that options. Code mirror. There's a way to see the dynamic options and see, not mode. We want key map is Vim. Is that? Wait a second. What if Vim? Sorry, I'm trying to think. What if it needs to be, instead of Vim insert, just a Vim alone? That doesn't sound right though. No, I've done Vim insert.
Well,
because it's kind of working, but it's not exactly working. Oh, hang on. Let me comment that out now. Maybe. Yeah, see? I can type, but like it starts like replacing my content. So it works, it leaves me in the right area, but it okay, now it's just working.
maybe your Octo is just haunted.
No, it's totally doing things. And it's all like timing based. So if I wait long enough, if I do a new document, I type H and then I wait a second. No, it's still, look at that. It's fucking HELLO. Yeah, oh, I'm still in fucking edit mode, man. Because O entered a new line. Or in, sorry, no, normal mode, I guess, is the... What is this? Oh, and when I do colon, it's trying to ask for commands. Okay, okay, this is... I think I might know what's going on. This might have to do with this signaling.
Well, I mean, definitely when internally when it transitions modes, it's doing more than just what we can do with using set option.
Okay, so codemirror.signal is not a function. That's part of our issue here. So what I'm thinking is, hang on. Where is, let me try this. Window.codemirror.signal. Window.codemirror.signal is a function. So let's give that a shot, and then we're gonna have to do some refactoring there, but just trying to get this to somewhat work, you know?
Oh, I get it.
Same thing's happening. It's not actually putting me in insert mode. It is changing my cursor to make it look like I'm in insert mode. But as soon as I try to type, it's very obvious that it's not. Okay, so do you have my server like connected right now?
Yeah.
And you have it running? So you have a new document open.
Yeah, I will. I have an unpersisted. I'm on the document new page. I am in Vim mode.
Okay.
I can insert. I can type. And then if I go and click add document, for me, I snap back to when I go to start a new document. It does snap back to normal mode.
That makes sense. That's expected. But if when you do the new document and you're in normal mode, if you go to insert mode and type out hello.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm seeing the behavior you're talking about, yeah.
Yes, okay, so that's what I thought. So that's like the weird part. Like the initial mode is being set, but it's like, it's not, like it changes the cursor, but that's it. It doesn't actually change the behavior. If I type I, it starts insert. If I type O, it does a new line. That's why hello types H and then a new line because, yeah. Okay, so you do see what I'm seeing. So it's super weird behavior. I don't know. I mean, the signaling didn't fix it. Calling, setting the key as Vim insert. Let me try this. Let me just try something. Oops. Okay, yeah, that just doesn't do. Vim mode is not what I want. So it's like Vim insert mode is not exactly right, or at least setting the option alone is not exactly right. Like there's something else that needs to happen that's not happening.
Right. Well, I mean, again, like if we look at its internal methods, it's doing a lot more when it switches modes than just setting an option.
Set option, key map, Vim insert. Enter insert mode. Oh, it has a config, first of all. Yeah, it does seem like we're going to need to do something to trigger like these internal functions or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it just seems a bit like it's just going to get a bit gross to persist that state across separate documents, which...
Yeah, well, that's the issue, though. It's not separate documents. It's just appears as separate. It's separate It all has to do with this damn route refresh and making sure that a document is not actually created until you start typing. That's literally all it is, which is unfortunate.
Well, I am talking somewhat colloquially. Like as a user, you are switching documents. Whether like the internal implementation about whether it's actually creating like a new document to be edited or versus like swapping out like the actual contents of the same, but keeping the same editor and recycling it. Like regardless, like to a user, I don't know.
Well, to a user, you're not though. You're just starting to type a new document. Like you're just literally creating a new document. And so when you're on the new document page and you start typing, like that's the issue, right? Like if you're on a new document page and you start typing, you're not swapping documents. You're just creating one. You're literally starting off the new document. But behind the scenes, it's swapping. But to you, it just looks like you're trying to type out on a brand new document, right? You're on the add document page because you're ready to create a new one. And the issue isn't when you transition to the page, it's after you start typing. Or rather, as soon as you start typing. So as a user, it's definitely going to be noticeable. The technical implementation is what's causing this problem, which is unfortunate, but I'm just not sure. Oh, hang on. What's... Huh. It looks like if I go to... cm.state.vim equals... Does it store this on the instance? Let me check that out. Window.editor.state.vim. Oh my god, it stores all this info on the instance. Does that mean I can just change it right there?
Maybe. I mean, you can definitely set. So, like for example,
let me try changing just in that one thing, because I'm just curious. Like, I feel like that insert mode boolean could potentially be the last piece. And I'm not saying that it's pretty and that I would even necessarily still want to keep this, but I am curious. So vim.insert, whoops, mode equals true. Let's try that last little thing. Did I? Oh, I broke. That's right. I changed something. What did I change? I changed that. Yeah, that was just testing something dumb. Oh, weird. Now it's not doing anything. I can't even type. So, insert mode being set to true. Broke something, that's for sure. Knowing that I can access this Vim instance, though, is interesting because now I'm wondering if it would be a little bit easier to coerce those last little changes that happen. Set option key mount.
So after you set, so if you look at the definition for enter, for the function enter insert mode, it's kind of interesting in that, so the first thing it does, it says insert mode true.
Yep.
It does a bunch of processing about height and where the cursor is and all this other stuff. Eventually, after it's done doing that, it does cm.set option disable input false.
Oh, that must be the thing then, because
yeah. So it's just for some reason like setting that variable disables input temporarily, and then it immediately re-enables input later.
That actually makes sense because that's what prevents the editor from like actually typing out what you're pressing. So that makes sense. Let's test that as well. So this editor set option disable input false. Oh my god, it's working. I did it. It's totally working now. So insert
Sweet.
hello world, and it types out like you would expect. Holy hell. Okay. Okay, so this is perfect. This is, we went past the checkpoint, but that's because I am me.
You wanted to solve it.
Yeah. You know. So this is perfect. This is a good stopping place. I am going to go ahead. Let's go ahead and get it committed and pushed up just so it's like in a, somewhere safe.
Sounds good.
I'll just do a whip commit for now, just because I'm already like much later than I planned on being, so I'm ready to get ready for bed. So
yeah.
let's see, whip.
Well, sounds good, man.
Dynamically load Vim mode and fix editor weirdness. For now, that'll be good. I'll rewrite that commit obviously later, but oh whoa, oh did I just, oh fuck, hang on one sec, I accidentally added vim.js. Git rm source vim.js, amend. All right, git git diff dash theme only head tilde. Okay, yeah, I got rid of it. So push that up. Awesome. Yeah, we can chat async about how to finish this up, or whether or not, I mean, obviously we're so close now that we could totally just do it offline as well. I don't really have a preference, but we can chat later and figure that out and determine if we want to like finish it up offline or do another stream. But yeah, thanks for hopping on. This has been a lot of fun.
Problem,
I'm glad that we were able to work on this together, because that would have given me a million headaches trying to figure out what the hell was going on. So it was really nice actually to have someone else to work on that particular implementation. That was a lot more than I expected it to be. I mean, hell, we're at almost 4 hours, which is about twice as long as I normally stream for. So
it was an engaging problem.
Yes, it really was. It was. But everyone else, thanks again for stopping by. In my About section, there's links to my Twitter, GitHub, and Discord. My username is voraciousdev on everything. Octo is open source on github.com/voraciousdev/octo. And yeah, thanks for hanging out. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet, and I will see you all later.
Cool. See y'all later too. Bye.